The Croft estate. The mansion, palatial in its grandeur, was draped in black wreaths and overflowing with somber floral arrangements. In the courtyard, within a large white tent, stood a coffin. An officiant in clerical robes was murmuring prayers, his voice a low drone against the mournful, brassy wail of a hired band. The sound was a wave of manufactured misery. Outside the gates, a river of luxury cars deposited a stream of guests. As the titans of Port Sterling's real estate world, the Croft family's guest list was a who's who of the city's elite. The powerful and influential had all come to pay their respects for the death of Jason Croft. Of course, with Jason's death tied to so many unanswered questions, no one from any official government office dared to show their face. As Jason's stepmother, Sienna Sterling had spent the last few days at the Croft estate, playing the part of the dutifully grieving widow. By now, she had confirmed her earlier suspicions. Ethan Vance was, in fact, the gentleman. But she'd also learned something even more shocking. The place where Jason had met his end was Celestial Axis territory. This was what she couldn't wrap her head around. How had the gentleman, the man she'd so admired from afar, lured Jason out of the Red Tower? And how had he managed to get Jason killed on the turf of his greatest enemy? Regardless, it was a good thing. From any angle, it looked like Jason Croft had died at the hands of the Celestial Axis, with not a shred of evidence connecting it back to Ethan. Even if Jonathan Croft was convinced the Vances were behind it, he had no proof. Without proof, even her boss, Ruff, had no pretext to intervene on Croft's behalf. If anything, Ruff might even go after the Celestial Axis for an explanation, which would inadvertently help Ethan. Sienna masked a faint smile behind her hand, marveling at her Ethan's brilliant, almost divine, maneuvering. But she didn't know that this time she was completely wrong. She had miscalculated Jonathan Croft, and she had grossly underestimated Victor Vance. "Sister, don't make your smile so obvious. People are watching," a young woman at her side whispered. Sienna immediately realized her slip. Her expression snapped back to one of profound sorrow, the transition seamless. After greeting a few approaching entrepreneurs, she slipped away to a quiet corner and pulled out her phone to call Ethan. Unsurprisingly, he rejected the call. The young master hadn't had the slightest interest in Port Sterling's affairs lately. "Damn it all," Sienna muttered resentfully. "Would it kill you to answer my call?" She put her phone away and, seeing several more important guests arrive, hurried toward the main gate to greet them. In the parking lot, inside a nondescript commercial van, Eva Vance sat in the passenger seat, a camera in hand, methodically photographing the mourners. When she saw Sienna at the entrance, dressed in a black formal gown and a wide-brimmed black hat, the beautiful detective couldn't help but murmur, "This Sienna Sterling is really something else." To have any real power at the Red Tower, you couldn't just be some canary in a gilded cage. Eva had looked into her before. Sienna's background was squeaky clean. A native of the capital, a graduate of a prestigious university, she'd only arrived in Port Sterling a few years ago. In the back seat, Director Quentin Irons was poring over a stack of files. Hearing Eva's comment, he pulled out a small packet of photos and a single document related to Sienna and handed them to her. "Her real name is Zhang Yao, and she's not from the capital. Her household registration is right here in Port Sterling." Zhang Yao, a Port Sterling native? Eva's brow furrowed. She flipped through the photos, shocked. What kind of influence did it take to completely change your name and identity, to reinvent yourself as someone born and bred in the nation's capital? For most people, just getting residency in the capital was an impossible dream. Irons continued, "This woman is no simple character. Look at that photo. Her car, where is it parked?" Eva looked at a picture of Sienna sitting on the hood of a red G-Wagon. The background looked like the Grand Plaza, and she was inside the restricted area, that hallowed ground with a national monument, a 600-year-old piece of history. Foreign dignitaries had to get out of their cars and walk, and Sienna Sterling had driven her luxury SUV right up to it for a photo op. Compared to that, changing your identity seemed like a trivial parlor trick. Eva stared, dumbfounded, for a long moment before continuing to flip through the photos. In just a dozen pictures, Sienna's transformation over a decade was subtly revealed, from the raw determination of a 17-year-old girl to the ostentatious materialism of her later years, then to the learned restraint of maturity, and finally to the poised, seductive woman she was today. Eva had no idea what she had been through, but one thing was certain. She was far more than just a pretty face. "Director, where did you get these photos?" "Once you find her real identity, you can trace her path. With enough legwork and interviews, a few pictures aren't hard to come by," Irons said. "But my trail went cold after I found out she became Jonathan Croft's mistress. I couldn't get any further. Eva was lost in thought. I've heard rumors that the owner of the Red Tower is Jonathan Croft himself, and that he used to be an official in the capital. She shook her head, dismissing the idea. No, that can't be right. Croft's government position was minor. The people he had access to weren't that powerful. Then he left the capital to go into business. He's just a rich tycoon. How could he have the power to forge a new identity for someone in the capital? And even if he could, he certainly wouldn't have the pull to get the gates of the Grand Plaza open for a joyride. You're underestimating Jonathan Croft, Irons said with a grim smile. This guy didn't just go into business. After he resigned from his post, he used his small network of connections to get a senior executive position at a public-private partnership. Under the guise of modernization, he implemented a dividend system, essentially giving himself and his cronies a cut of the profits. He paused, letting the weight of it sink in. Later, that dividend system magically transformed into stock options when the enterprise was listed on a foreign exchange. He deliberately undervalued the company, then used company funds to pay for massive employee bonuses. That bonus money was then used to buy the stock options from the company. It was a shell game, using the company's own money to buy its assets for the employees. And since the massive bonuses had already tanked the company's value, they could buy even more stock for the same amount of money. He was looting the place with its own funds, a perfect leveraged buyout. Back in those freewheeling days, that dividend scheme went for a spin on the stock market and came back as equity. Jonathan Croft ended up with the majority of his shares and 100% of the decision-making power. After that, under the banner of bringing in new blood, he colluded with outside parties to dilute the remaining stock, then bought it back on the cheap. In one fell swoop, he acquired all the shares, turning a public enterprise into his own private property. Eva was speechless. She had heard of Jonathan Croft's legendary rise. He was practically a case study in business textbooks. But in his autobiography and every media report, he was always painted with the brush of a courageous, visionary leader. His move into Port Sterling real estate had made him an icon for a generation of entrepreneurs, earning him the title the Godfather of Commerce. But hearing it from Director Irons, he sounded more like a national traitor. I never imagined Jonathan Croft was capable of something like that, Eva said, her shock absolute. Director Irons snorted. He's certainly capable, but to pull off the privatization of a public-private entity, his abilities alone wouldn't have been nearly enough. He had someone powerful behind him. Eva's brow tightened. After Croft swallowed the enterprise, he didn't continue to develop it. Instead, he cashed out, taking a massive amount of capital back to Port Sterling to get into real estate. That same year, the Red Tower was built. Eva's eyes widened. The person behind him is the real owner of the Red Tower. Exactly, Irons continued, which is why I suspect that, a few years ago, Croft gave this Sienna sterling to the true owner of the Red Tower as a gift. The word gift made Eva's stomach turn, but was it really so uncommon in their world? There have been whispers that the man behind the Red Tower is a major political figure who retired from the capital. Now, that rumor seems very credible. So, who is the owner of the Red Tower? A flicker of something dark crossed Irons's eyes. For now, it's unclear. But if we want to unlock the secrets of the Red Tower, Sienna Sterling is the key. Eva considered this for a moment, then noticed something. Director Irons seemed to have an obsession with the Red Tower. 4 days now, nearly every task he had assigned her was related to it. But it made sense. The place held too many secrets and had its tendrils in countless government offices. If they wanted to clean up Port Sterling, the Red Tower was the best place to start. She had no way of knowing that her idol, beneath his quest for public justice, was also driven by a personal vendetta. After a moment of silence, Eva suddenly asked, Director Irons, what's your take on the connection between the Celestial Axis and Jason Croft? Their purpose for being here today was because Jason's death had dragged the Celestial Axis, a group that had vanished 30 years ago, back into the light. That was why they were here, observing in secret. Eva didn't know much about the Celestial Axis, but one fact was burned into her memory. Her own brother had told her that 10 years ago, it was the Celestial Axis that had kidnapped him and their mother, torturing him to the brink of death. For reasons both professional and personal, she had to get to the bottom of this. Hearing her question, Irons put down his files. Why don't you tell me your thoughts first? Eva didn't hesitate. Jonathan Croft insists his son was kidnapped and that he knows nothing about the Celestial Axis. But they've been lying dormant for so many years. Why would they risk exposing themselves just to kidnap his son? And the crime scene, with its unique symbol, was clearly Celestial Axis territory. 2 of the half-burned bodies even had Celestial Axis tattoos. It looks more like Jason went to wipe them out, not that he was kidnapped. The bodies at the scene are still unidentified. No one has come to claim them, so we can't confirm who they were. Otherwise, we could piece together what happened. However, Jonathan Croft did come forward to claim a body, and a DNA match confirmed it was Jason. The medical examiner determined Jason was physically tortured before his death. Both of his ears were cut off. That part, at least, does look like a kidnapping. Iron smiled faintly. So, your theory is that Jason was kidnapped by the Celestial Axis, and Jonathan Croft hired a team to rescue his son, which resulted in a firefight on their turf. Eva nodded. At present, that's the only explanation that makes sense. We can't draw any definitive conclusions yet, Iron said. But one thing is certain. There's some kind of conflict between the Celestial Axis and the Croft family. An organization like theirs wouldn't take such a risk for a simple ransom. Otherwise, they wouldn't have stayed hidden for so many years. The problem is, Jonathan Croft isn't cooperating, Eva said, frustrated. We can't force him to talk. Irons thought for a moment. For now, just keep a close eye on the Croft family. With his son dead in such a brutal way, Jonathan Croft is bound to make a move. Understood, Director. Just then, Jonathan Croft's car approached and drove through the mansion gates. For the past few days, Croft had been summoned by the police daily for questioning. It seemed today's session was over. Eva digested what Irons had told her. After a long silence, she glanced at the file again and saw Zhang Yao's former home address. She froze for a second, then, maintaining her composure, excused herself to go to the restroom. In reality, she found a hidden corner and made a call to Ethan. At that moment, Ethan was on his way to the airport to drop off Isabel. Seeing his sister's call, he answered without hesitation. Eva, the Celestial Axis seems to be tangled up with the Croft family. Jason Croft was found dead on their territory. Ethan's voice remained calm. Oh, the Crofts? The real estate developers? Eva was confused. It's huge news. You haven't heard. I'm in Boston, Ethan said, pausing. On my honeymoon with my wife. Eva's suspicion vanished. I just wanted to tell you, don't go investigating the Crofts on your own. There are a lot of eyes on Jonathan Croft right now. Ethan murmured. Well, I'll just investigate in a couple of days then. You better listen to me. Don't do anything reckless. I know, Eva. I just want to find the truth. I won't be reckless. Eva fell silent. After a moment, she asked abruptly, do you remember a girl named Zhang Yao? The question caught Ethan completely off guard. Huh? Who? Zhang Yao. She used to live in your old apartment complex, same building, same age as you. Ethan feigned ignorance. No idea. I didn't really make friends back then. Her family's apartment had a gas explosion. You have no memory of that at all? Oh, Ethan sounded thoughtful. I think I remember something like that happening. Look, Eva, you know me. I never like being part of a crowd. Eva said nothing. After a long pause with no sound from his sister, Ethan took the initiative. Eva, why are you asking about this person? You need me to help you look into her? No need, Eva said. I was just trying to understand something about her. Anyway, I won't disturb you too. Enjoy your honeymoon. It's probably best if you don't come back for a while. After hanging up, Ethan's expression turned serious. He thought for a moment, then dialed Sienna Sterling. Hello, big brother Ethan. You. Ethan cut her off. Lay low for a while. The police are investigating you. Sienna paused on the other end. Then a light, musical laugh bubbled up. I see. Are you worried about me, big brother Ethan? Giggle. Let's meet. I have something to tell you too. I'm not in Port Sterling. Then where are you? I'll come find you. Ethan didn't answer the question. His tone was serious. If you can, you should leave the Red Tower as soon as possible. Take care of yourself. Most of the time, his coldness towards Sienna was a deliberate act. But with the current situation, Victor wanting to poke around the Red Tower's secrets, the police investigating it, he genuinely didn't want Sienna to meet a tragic end. After hanging up, Ethan had just put his phone away when he felt the death glare from the beautiful woman beside him. Honey, Ethan said with a sheepish grin. A friend. Isabel's eyes were tinged with displeasure. A good friend? No. Just a regular friend. The night we were run off the cliff, Isabel stated. You took a call from her then, too? Ethan stammered. She's a manager at a restaurant. I eat there sometimes. You seem to be on good terms, Isabel said coolly. Anyway, I'm heading back now. You should have her come find you. She's really just a regular friend. Can a regular friend bite your lip until it bleeds? From the passenger seat, Benny couldn't hold it in any longer. Ha, my buddy's grandma. Cough, cough, his grandma sure could have a lot of kids. Ethan slapped the back of Benny's neck, then turned back to Isabel with an obsequious smile. Honey, let me explain. Last time, that was a total accident. It was me. I was the one being taken advantage of. Ethan, Isabel said, her gaze resentful. You can cheat. Benny's internal monologue went wild. Oh, wow. The boss's wife is so generous. My man is so lucky. In the next second, Isabel continued, but you'd better hope I don't find out. Otherwise, I'll make you regret it. Ethan smiled. Jealous. Hearing those two words again, Isabel's reaction was the complete opposite of before. She nodded seriously. Yes, jealous. Ethan squeezed her hand tightly. Honey, I'd never do anything to hurt you. I swear. Isabel replied. You'd better mean it. I'm not kidding. Ethan nodded emphatically. Come on, give me a kiss. Get away. How can you be so shameless? Benny, looking like an innocent child who'd stumbled upon something he shouldn't have seen, awkwardly scratched his head. The driver glanced at him from time to time, muttering to himself, what is wrong with this big guy? Meanwhile, Sienna Sterling, though delighted by Ethan's call, maintained her facade of grief. She took Jonathan Croft's arm as he returned home and greeted the guests with him. A group of young entrepreneurs crowded around, their voices choked with crocodile tears, as if their own mothers had died. Mr. Croft, you must take care of your health. Yes, Mr. Croft, Port Sterling's business community can't go on without you. Jonathan Croft's face was a mask of sorrow. He didn't respond to the flood of sycophantic praise, instead walking with heavy steps toward the memorial hall. The officiant, taking a break, sipped some tea before approaching Croft. 3 more days of rites, and the young master can be laid to rest. Thank you for your trouble. Croft's eyes were moist. He waved a weary hand, and his godson, Brody, immediately produced a gold bar and handed it to the officiant. The officiant was overwhelmed, spouting a few flattering words before gratefully accepting the gold. Just then, a Maybach Zeppelin pulled up to the courtyard gate. Several nearby bodyguards swarmed it, blocking its path, their expressions universally grim and hostile. Standing at the entrance of the hall, Sienna looked up. Recognizing Victor Vance's car, she sucked in a sharp breath. That old fox. Isn't there enough trouble already? Jonathan Croft was still mourning his son. Brody, hearing the commotion outside, peeked out. Seeing Victor's car, he clenched his fists and turned back to his godfather. Victor Vance is here. A flash of venom crossed Croft's eyes, as fleeting as a night blooming Sirius, before his expression reverted to grief. He silently turned and walked toward the gate. Inside the Maybach, the driver looked at the furious bodyguards blocking the car. Sir, he asked Victor calmly, should I run them over? Victor pursed his lips and slapped the driver. You idiot. We're here to mourn the dead, not create more. Have you no manners? Ugh, forget it. Just stop here. I'll get out. After exiting the car, Victor paid no mind to the bodyguards, walking slowly and deliberately toward the entrance. Though the men looked enraged, not one of them dared to step forward and stop him. They parted, creating a path. Just as he passed through them, Jonathan Croft came to meet him. Oh, my dear brother Croft. Victor's expression was one of deep sorrow. Tell me, how could this happen? How is our dear Jason gone? I was just having dinner with him the other day. Tears welled in Croft's eyes. He gripped Victor's hand tightly, as if he'd found a long-lost friend. Victor, he began, but his voice broke into a sob. Victor shook his head. You have to be strong. Come, let me pay my respects to Jason. The two men entered the hall together. Victor burned a few slips of joss paper, then walked to Jason's portrait, his expression heavy, his voice thick with a near sob. God is truly unfair. Jason was such a rare talent, destined for great things. But the heavens are blind to let him die so young and so brutally. Tortured, his body burned beyond recognition. A tragedy, a true tragedy. Damn those kidnappers to hell. Sienna thought, when it comes to shamelessness, if Victor Vance claims second place, no one would dare claim first. Outside, the crowd of entrepreneurs exchanged uneasy glances. They all knew the Croft and Vance families had been feuding recently, but who would dare get involved? Jonathan Croft might be the acknowledged godfather of commerce, but the old man at Phoenix Crest Manor was a true titan. Choosing a side now would be suicide. Victor continued to twist the knife in Jonathan Croft's wound. Brother Croft, you must pull yourself together. I know he was your only son, but, sigh, we're both fathers. I understand how you feel right now. Your son isn't dead. Brody bit out, his fists clenched so tight it seemed he was about to lunge at Victor. Insolent boy, this is no place for you to speak. Jonathan Croft snapped at his godson, then turned back to Victor. Victor, please don't mind him. Victor waved a hand. That's what I mean. Heaven is so unjust. My worthless son does nothing but fool around, and though he was attacked recently, he's perfectly fine. But Jason, a pillar of his generation, so brilliant and capable, meets such a tragic end. The heavens are truly blind. You. Brody was about to explode, but Croft stopped him again. Get out. Sienna knew she shouldn't intervene, but to prevent things from escalating, she had to step in. Mr. Vance, please come to the reception room for some tea. Victor, however, seemed to relish the conflict. Seeing the warning in Sienna's eyes, he simply shifted his target. Yes, yes, of course. Thank you. Miss Sterling, you must be strong as well. Look at you, your face is so pale and drawn. I know, even though Jason was a few years older, you always treated him as your own son. This, Mr. Vance. Sienna's eyes flashed, her tone ice cold. Please proceed to the reception room. Seeing the beautiful woman was genuinely angered, Victor decided to back down. Oh, my apologies. I'm just so overwhelmed with grief. I'm not thinking clearly. Please forgive me, Miss Sterling. With that, he took Jonathan Croft's hand, and the two of them went to the reception room like the best of friends. Sienna was furious, but with so many people watching, she couldn't lash out. Instead, she dutifully played the part of the gracious hostess and personally brewed a cup of tea for Victor. Victor, that you would come. I am truly grateful, Jonathan Croft choked out. Victor waved a hand, his face a mask of solemn guilt. Brother Croft, I was too impulsive the other day. I thought my son's attack was instigated by Jason, so. In the end, we are both fathers. You must understand how I felt. Today, I sincerely apologize. I shouldn't have been so rash to come and offend you without any proof. Jonathan Croft slowly shook his head. It's all in the past, all in the past. You must take care of yourself. If you're not at the helm of Port Sterling's business world, things are bound to fall into chaos. I'm old. With what's happened to Jason, I have no heart for business anymore. It's time I step down. Victor took a sip of tea, then changed the subject. I heard Jason's death is connected to the Celestial Axis? My goodness, that group. 30 years ago, they were mortal enemies of our Vance family. I thought my father had ground them to dust long ago. I never imagined they still existed. Croft replied, I was just as shocked. Those animals. Sigh. Was Jason really kidnapped? He whispered. Croft stared into his eyes for a long moment before speaking slowly. He was really kidnapped. Then what was the Celestial Axis's motive? I never received a ransom call. Then perhaps it wasn't a kidnapping, Victor said, feigning ignorance. Jason was always so cautious, with so many bodyguards. How could he have been taken? And their hideout was burned to the ground. Tell me, could there have been a third party pulling the strings? Croft asked, a third party? Who? Victor replied. Who do you think it could be? The two old foxes stared at each other for a long moment. Jonathan Croft's expression remained unchanged. He took a deep breath. Victor, you're overthinking it. Perhaps it was just Jason's bodyguards fighting to the death with the Celestial Axis. Victor nodded. So, Jason was surrounded by loyal men. In any case, if you need anything from your little brother here, just say the word. I'll help in any way I can. Throughout the entire exchange, Jonathan Croft maintained his sorrowful demeanor. Of course, he nodded. Seeing the old turtle refuse to show his hand, Victor lost interest and changed the topic again. Brother Croft, I know you're grieving and have no mind for business, but my situation is urgent. The money I invested in our joint project, when do you think I can get it back? Croft sighed. It was a good partnership, ruined by one accident. The key is that the federal task force is now involved. It's too complicated. I'm afraid I can't give it to you for some time. Victor said, I know I bear the primary responsibility for the project's failure. I understand your position. But my shareholders don't. Right now, I'm in the middle of a critical acquisition of Triumph Investments. Without capital, I'm destined to fail. Do you see my predicament? Can you think of a solution? This is truly difficult for me. Croft lamented. Victor, can we discuss this in a few days? I'm really not in the right state of mind. I hope you can understand. Victor put on a troubled expression. After some thought, he pulled a lawsuit summons from his briefcase and handed it to Croft. Let's both be understanding. I'm being forced into this. But in the end, business is business. Our friendship doesn't have to suffer for it. Jonathan Croft closed his eyes, taking the summons. I suppose this is the only way. After all, you have to answer to your shareholders. Listening to the two brothers exchange sincere-sounding but passive-aggressive barbs, Sienna rolled her eyes. A sense of dread grew within her. Every word out of Victor's mouth today was a knife twisting in Croft's heart. It was as if he was afraid Croft wouldn't connect Jason's death to him, prodding him again and again. Did he really want a war? But then again, it wasn't surprising. Victor had lost a fortune. How could he let it go? Perhaps it was just as she predicted. Victor Vance had been setting this trap all along. She just didn't know what big move the old fox was waiting for to make the old turtle stick his head out. After about 10 more minutes of talk, Victor stood to leave. Sienna accompanied him. You old fox, what you really up to? Sienna's voice was a low, expressionless hiss, mindful of the crowd. Victor sighed dramatically. My dear friend lost his son. I came to mourn. You've crossed a line. Sienna glanced at him. A serious line. Victor had no desire to get tangled up with her. He chuckled. My son actually has a thing for smart women, especially ones who are both smart and beautiful. Sienna's lips curled into a smirk. If your son had half your emotional intelligence, I'd thank my lucky stars. Victor shot her a look. You two really would be a good match. For a moment, Sienna forgot what she was going to say, a faint blush creeping on her cheeks. It wasn't until she saw Victor to his car that she snapped out of it, rapping on his window. I don't care what you do, but you can't drag your son into it. This is my second warning. Victor replied, fair enough, fair enough. Everything is fair enough with you. Sienna muttered irritably. After he drove off, she added under her breath, and nothing is ever settled. Stubborn old mule. When she returned to the reception room, Jonathan Croft was being helped toward the elevator by a maid. Sienna hurried over and took the maid's place. As soon as the elevator doors closed, Sienna dropped her hand. The look of concern on her face vanished, replaced by an icy glare. I told you not to provoke Victor Vance. Your son just had to play with fire and get himself burned. Croft's lips were a thin line. He said nothing, his expression lacking its usual deference to Sienna. He was a blank slate. You should have heard him. Victor is still planning to come after you. My advice? Do exactly what you're doing today. Keep your head tucked in your shell. Croft remained silent. Ding. The elevator reached the third floor. Croft stepped out first. Hey, old man, I'm talking to you. Are your ears stuffed with cotton? Sienna followed him, her face a mask of fury. They entered a suite, one after the other. After she closed the door, Sienna, having received no response, finally lost her patience. Jonathan Croft. She was cut off by an aged voice from within the suite. Yow, who's made you so angry again? Hearing the familiar voice, Sienna froze on the spot. It took her 3 full seconds to process it before a look of pure joy spread across her face. She rushed into the bedroom. Sir, what are you doing here? Jonathan Croft stood stock still in the center of the living room. Even with no cameras and no one watching, he kept his hands folded in front of him, his body slightly bowed in a posture of utmost reverence. In the bedroom, an elderly man in his 70s sat reclined in a chair, holding a tablet, leisurely listening to a vintage jazz recording. He was thin, looking almost frail with age, and dressed in an understated but elegant white silk suit that couldn't hide the air of nobility radiating from him. His temples were gray, and his face had a carefree yet inscrutable quality. He didn't look like a man who had spent years in government. If you had to guess, you'd say he was more of a Machiavellian courtier. This was the man who had plagued Port Sterling for decades, mockingly called the city's unofficial head of appointments, the true owner of the Red Tower, Ruff. Seeing Sienna enter, Ruff smiled faintly and placed the tablet on the table. The moment he did, Sienna threw herself into his arms, wrapping her own around his neck and purring. Why did you come without telling me? You're terrible. Ruff patted her back gently. I wanted to give you a surprise. A surprise? Sienna straddled his lap, looking down at him from a superior position. I'm certainly surprised. Where's the delight? You. Ruff's eyes were full of affection. He pointed to a gift box on the table. There, I got it for you. Attended an auction in Hong Kong the other day and picked it up. Sienna pouted. So you just picked it up? Oof. Throw it out. I don't want it. It was over 9 million. You really want me to throw it away? I wouldn't care if it was 90 million. All right. Ruff said softly. My mistake, okay? I'm begging you. Please accept it. Sienna's lip jutted out. I don't want material things. I just want you. I've got 1 foot in the grave already. What do you want me for? While I'm still alive, just take whatever I can give you. If you say another morbid thing like that, I'll get really angry. Fine. Come, let me see. Have you lost weight again? Sienna's eyes were filled with a melancholic affection. She rested her head on his shoulder, and a flicker of worry crossed her face. Didn't you say the federal task force was in town, and you needed to lay low for a while? Why did you come back so suddenly? Ruff replied, If I didn't come back, someone might just tear down my Red Tower. Nonsense. Who would dare? You didn't ask Victor Vance if he would dare just now. Sienna sat up. You came back this time to make a move on him? Ruff took a breath, then suddenly asked, That Vance boy, will he marry you? The question caught Sienna completely off guard. She panicked for a moment. Sir, he and I are really just... Ruff pressed a finger to her lips, his smile gentle as he cut her off. You're still young. You deserve a good life. Sienna shook her head. I only want to stay by your side. You like him, don't you? Sienna opened her mouth, but seeing the all-knowing look in Ruffing's eyes, she couldn't utter a single word. You can't hide it when you like someone, Ruffing said. Besides power, what else do you like about me? In the end, I'm just an old man on his way to the grave. Just based on the fact that in all these years, you've never touched me, never even been remotely inappropriate, and have instead cared for me unconditionally. I know you see me as a substitute for your late wife, but for that kindness, I could never repay you, even if I worked like a slave for the rest of my life. Ruffing said, so you see, what you feel for me is just a sense of obligation. But I don't need you to repay me. Your only responsibility is to live a good life. And I never said you were a substitute. You are you, the one and only Yao Yao in the world. Sienna was deeply moved. In truth, a woman of her background was least accustomed to genuine affection. But this old man, he had truly given her so much of it. She thought back to years ago, when a young girl named Zhang Yao was reborn from the ashes of an explosion. From that day on, she had walked a dark path. With little education and a tragic past, money was her only desire. With her stunning looks and sharp mind, Zhang Yao had navigated a world of powerful men with ease. Gradually, she discovered that compared to money, power was the ultimate prize. And so, she set her sights on the velvet stage, the exclusive show favored by the elite. She used her charms to climb onto Jonathan Croft's branch, and was smoothly passed from him to power itself. When that power first saw her, he only said, the resemblance is uncanny. Zhang Yao was shocked, because in his eyes, she saw not a trace of lust or vulgarity. Later, she learned that power was named Ruff. He had been a government official in the capital, a very, very high-ranking one, a height ordinary people could never hope to reach in several lifetimes. Of course, Ruffing was a pseudonym. No one knew his real name. Later, Ruffing took her to the capital, forged a new identity for her, as Sienna Sterling, taught her etiquette, calligraphy, and painting, and imparted countless lessons about the world. And because of that, the once superficial, gold-digging girl who only knew how to flaunt her looks gradually transformed into the talented, well-connected socialite she was today. Listening to the intimate conversation in the bedroom, Jonathan Croft stood motionless in the living room, his face impassive, like a eunuch in an emperor's palace. After a while, Ruffing suddenly called out, "Croft, come in." Croft quickly responded and hurried into the bedroom. "When Victor Vance came just now, why didn't you lose your temper?" Ruffing sounded slightly displeased, and as he finished, he let out a few coughs. Sienna expertly retrieved medicine from his bag and handed it to him, then went to the living room to get water. Jonathan Croft said meekly, "Sir, you must take care of your health." Ruffing caught his breath. "You know as well as I do, this old ailment of mine has no cure. I don't have many days left, cough. That old bastard Victor Vance, so arrogant and shameless, he's gone too far. You shouldn't have tolerated it just now." Croft, like a docile old golden retriever, nodded and bowed. "Without your express orders, sir, I wouldn't dare offend him. After all, he is Victor Vance." Ruffing said teasingly, "Your son has the guts to challenge him. Why are you such a coward?" "It seems I've been too strict with you all these years. You've lost all your fire. You are right to scold me, sir," Jonathan Croft said. But Jason really didn't want to go head-to-head with him. The conflict with Victor Vance's son was just an accident. Enough. We're both old foxes. "Don't feed me a line," Ruffing interrupted. "Your son is full of hot blood. It's no big deal if he does something out of line. The problem is, now that he's dead, what are your plans?" Just then, Sienna returned with a glass of warm water. She handed it to him and casually interjected, "You have to consider the master before you kick the dog. Jason died on Celestial Axis territory. No matter how you look at it, we should be demanding an explanation from them, shouldn't we? Sir, you must know the leader of the Celestial Axis, right?" As she finished, Jonathan Croft suddenly dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Sir, Jason. He was killed by Harrison Vance." Sienna froze, her expression turning complex as she looked at Croft. "So, this old turtle knew everything? He even knew more than I did. He's just been waiting all these days for Ruffing to arrive, hasn't he?" Ruffing calmly took his medicine, placed the glass on the table, and looked at Croft. Get up. A man your age, what do you look like?" Croft didn't rise. Through his tears, he recounted everything that had happened recently. The conflict between Ethan and Jason, how Ethan had faked his injuries to make Jason lower his guard, how Harrison had used the land deal as bait to lure Jason out of the Red Tower. He told Ruffing everything, like a wronged wife pleading for justice. "Sir, I, Jonathan Croft, have been with you for so many years. Even if I have no great achievements, I have worked hard, haven't I?" Jason was my only son. You must get justice for me. Ruffin was silent for a moment. To conspire with a tiger, how can there be any gain? Your son seriously underestimated Harrison Vance. It was obvious the two brothers were setting a trap for him, yet he walked right into it. A fool's errand. Sienna's only concern at that moment was her big brother, Ethan. She said thoughtfully, so what role did the celestial axis play in all this? Ruffin glanced at her, knowing full well the girl was trying to divert attention to protect Ethan. He didn't expose her. After a faint smile, he looked at Jonathan Croft. Get up. Sit. Only then did Croft rise, sitting respectfully in a chair. Ruffin said, regardless of the true cause of your son's death, this Victor Vance is likely playing a very big game. Sienna countered, but it was Jason who started the whole thing. Ruffin smiled. Victor Vance got to where he is today, largely through his own abilities. He is a master of sizing up a situation. If there's an opportunity, he will seize it. That old bastard. He's too much like his father. No, I get the feeling he's even more terrifying than his old man. So what's he after, to have sacrificed so much? Sienna asked, confused. Ruffin snorted. To stabilize his position in the Vance family, to get his hands on the Croft family's real estate business, and maybe even take a poke at my red tower. 3 birds with 1 stone. A treacherous heart. Sienna was dumbfounded. No way. Even Theodore Vance keeps a respectful distance from us. How could Victor Vance have such audacity? Ruffin didn't answer her question. After a moment of thought, he asked Jonathan Croft, I heard Cassandra Vance already won the bid for the development zone? Croft replied, her company, Apex Construction, was the only bidder. All their qualifications were in order. There was no reason not to give it to her. Ruffin nodded. This is what I mean. To stabilize his position, Victor first has to take out Cassandra Vance. That old widow is all bark and no bite, dumber than a bag of hammers. If it weren't for Theodore, she would have been played to death countless times. Oof. Croft, I'm worried about you. For Victor to make Cassandra stumble, he'll have to interfere with the project. You need to be prepared for both offense and defense. Push that old widow to the front lines and let them tear each other apart. In short, Victor Vance is gambling. You will gamble with him. You're only allowed to win, not lose. Yes, sir. Croft was overcome with gratitude. He paused. Then a look of worry crossed his face. But that old man of the Vance family. He already warned me once. I'm afraid. Ruffin sneered. Where did the Jonathan Croft who dared to swallow a public enterprise 30 years ago go? So timid and hesitant. What has become of you? His son is out there making waves, and since he's turning a blind eye, I'll turn a blind eye too. Go all out. You don't need to ask for my permission. If Theodore Vance comes knocking, I'll block him for you. Understood, sir. Good. Ruffin acknowledged. He paused, his brow furrowing slightly. The Croft family's fatal flaw. I don't need to spell it out for you, do I? Jonathan Croft nodded repeatedly. Rest assured, sir, no one will know about that. Ruffin said, you'd better be on your guard. Victor Vance is not a man to be trifled with. I have a very bad feeling. That old bastard probably knows something. Otherwise, he wouldn't have burned his bridges. Croft, if he dares to bring your family's fatal flaw into the light, it won't just be you. I'm afraid I'll be implicated as well. Croft's expression grew grim. After a moment, he said, Sir, I will be vigilant. Good. You can go attend to your duties. I'm tired. I want to rest, cough. Croft nodded and respectfully exited the suite. Only after the door was closed did he dare to straighten his back. He walked slowly downstairs, his face a complete blank. In the first-floor living room, Brody was looking over the lawsuit from Victor Vance, his anger growing. He wanted nothing more than to tear Victor limb from limb. Hearing the elevator door open, Brody looked up. Seeing his godfather had come downstairs, he rushed over, hissing through clenched teeth, Godfather, Victor Vance is practically taking a dump on our heads. Are you really going to tolerate this? Jason's body is barely cold, and... At that, Jonathan Croft glanced up toward the 3rd floor. Brody immediately fell silent. He knew a distinguished guest had arrived before dawn. Though he didn't know who it was, anyone who could make his godfather bow and scrape was certainly no ordinary person. Croft glanced at the lawsuit in Brody's hand. His pale lips moved, and he said only one word. Stall. Brody understood immediately. He said nothing more, grabbed his car keys, and hurried out. In the bedroom, Sienna was helping Ruffing into bed. Her delicate hands gently kneaded his shoulders, her expression serene and enchanting. She asked casually, Sir, what you mentioned before. The Croft family's fatal flaw. What is it? Ruffing, looking thoroughly relaxed, smiled faintly. That is a heavenly secret. In short, if Victor Vance dares to speak of it, all of Port Sterling will be shaken to its core. Sienna was thoughtful, but didn't dare press further. Even with all the favors she enjoyed, there were limits. But there was another question she could ask. Sir, the Celestial Axis. What kind of organization is it, really? I'm quite curious. Ruffing's eyes were gently closed. After a long silence, he said something completely unexpected. Yao Yao, if you can, you should leave the country soon. Sienna's eyes widened. For a moment, she was speechless. First, Ethan had told her to leave the Red Tower as soon as possible. Now, even Ruffin was saying the same thing. It seemed events were spiraling out of control, but she couldn't understand what it was that would make even Ruffin afraid. Sir, what's happening? Ruffin raised a hand and gently caressed her cheek, his expression full of tender affection. Cut all of our private ties with the Croft family. Jonathan Croft must die. Sienna processed this. After a long moment, she suddenly understood. You want Croft to fight Victor to the death, to use the opportunity to solidify the story that Croft is the real owner of the Red Tower, to misdirect the federal investigation, right? After all, without that identity, Croft himself would never have the guts to challenge the Vance family. Ruffin smiled. My girl is as sharp as ever. Sienna blushed slightly, then continued. To establish Croft's identity, you'll have to help him. Otherwise, with that old man's abilities, he's no match for Victor Vance. If Victor takes him down too easily, no one would believe he was the boss of the Red Tower. But if you help him, I'm afraid Victor won't be able to stand against you. When Victor is defeated, what reason would there be for Croft to die? You can't just let him live and wait for the feds to investigate, can you? And if he dies in some kind of accident, it will only make the task force more suspicious. Ruffing said, Victor can't stand against my network of connections, but if that old man Theodore Vance comes out of retirement, how much of my network will still be usable? Then again, if the old man really does intervene, wouldn't that give Croft a huge amount of face? The more intense the fight, the more realistic the play, and the more the audience will buy their tickets. Sienna didn't really know anything about Theodore Vance. By the time she had arrived at the Red Tower, the old patriarch was already semi-retired. But though she had never witnessed his iron fist firsthand, she had heard enough from the powerful figures who frequented the Red Tower. They all spoke of him with a mixture of fear and awe. If Theodore Vance personally intervenes, then you can give him an out, and Jonathan Croft's death will become a logical conclusion. Sienna murmured, weighing the pros and cons. Ruffin was silent for a moment. That will be the best outcome. But getting Theodore to come out of retirement won't be easy. He'll surely watch my reaction before making his own move. Besides, what I'm most worried about is that Victor has already discovered the Croft family's fatal flaw. If he uses that, the whole game will be thrown into chaos. Sienna knew Ruffin wouldn't tell her what that fatal flaw was, so she didn't ask. Instead, she said worriedly, Sir, you say Victor is gambling, but aren't you doing the same? With so many variables, who can predict the outcome? Which is why I'm thinking you should leave the country beforehand. Ruffin said, I'm already having someone arrange a new identity for you. The passport will be ready within a week. You can leave without anyone knowing. The money I've laundered overseas over the years is enough for you to live lavishly for several lifetimes. Sienna shook her head, her gaze firm. I don't want it. If I go, I'm going with you. Be good. I don't have many days left, cough. Ruffin coughed a few times. You deserve a good life, but it can't be with that Vance boy. Sir. Sienna lowered her head, her voice softening. I know that life and death are beyond our control. No matter how many nice words I say, they're just prayers. But I swear, I will stay with you until the very end. And after I die? Ruffin smiled faintly and sighed. You have to think long-term. I just want to see you before I die, without any worries, happy for the rest of your life. Sienna bit her lip, unyielding. We go together, or not at all. Ruffing's lips twitched. You can't let him go? AI. My dear girl, anyone but him. He is the one person you cannot have. Sienna's mouth opened, and a terrible premonition washed over her. Sir, what are you going to do? To him. Ruffin closed his eyes and said nothing. Sir. Sienna gripped his arm tightly, her eyes pleading. Are you planning to make a move on him? He has nothing to do with any of this. He's just a playboy. All of this was orchestrated by Victor. Yao Yao. Ruffing's gaze suddenly turned profound. He cut her off. Ethan Vance may not have participated in Victor's gamble, but he is involved in something far more terrible. He would not have a good ending. It was sealed 10 years ago. It was destined that he would not have a good ending. I cannot stand by and watch you be buried with him. Cough. Hearing this, Sienna's heart leaped into her throat. She stammered. It's about the Celestial Axis, isn't it? Ruffin slowly shook his head. You cannot ask about this matter. In short, all I can tell you is that Ethan Vance is not at all what you see. You must stay far away from him. Sir, I don't want him to die. His fate is already set. Not even the gods can save him. Sienna's mind went blank. Her face turned pale, and her voice trembled. Sir, why? Why can't he have a good ending? The Celestial Axis. What kind of organization is it? Yao Yao. Ruffling interrupted again. He sighed deeply. I have never forced you to do anything, but on this matter, there is no room for negotiation. Listen to me. Stay away from him. When your passport is ready in a few days, you will leave the country. Tears welled in Sienna's eyes, but her expression was fiercely determined. I'm not going anywhere. If I go, you go with me. Ruffing knew she was worried he would move against Ethan, but he said no more. After a moment of silence, he changed the subject. Since I've already promised Jonathan Croft I'd get justice for him, you will cooperate with him fully. After all, on the surface, you are his woman. Sienna, her mind consumed with thoughts of Ethan, answered absently. Next weekend, prepare for a velvet stage performance, Ruffing said. The usual place, the Sky Garden. Sienna was thoughtful. Using Jonathan Croft's dance troupe again, Ruffing shook his head. Everyone's tired of those girls. I've already had someone arrange for new talent. You will go and select them yourself. Sienna said coolly, fine. I will cooperate fully with him. Ruffing grunted. Good. You can go now. There's so many guests. Keep up appearances. I'm a bit tired. I want to sleep. Cough. Oh, and remind Jonathan Croft one more time. No one is allowed on the 4th floor. The Federal Task Force has people watching the Red Tower. I'll be staying here for the time being. After going downstairs, Sienna's heart was heavy. She knew Ethan had returned for revenge, and his enemies were the mysterious Celestial Axis. But just now, Ruffing had said Ethan's fate was sealed 10 years ago. What other secrets were hidden in all this? Whatever it was, the secret was definitely related to the Celestial Axis. But the key question was, how did Ruffing know these things? Suddenly, Sienna noticed something. From the very beginning, Ruffing had told her not to be interested in the Celestial Axis. Today, whenever she brought it up, he clammed up, changing the subject to stop her from asking. Connecting these strange behaviors, a terrifying thought began to form in her mind. Could it be? In an instant, the beautiful woman went rigid, her face growing even paler. She didn't dare think any further. Impossible. How? How could that be? I must be overthinking it. Impossible. Upstairs, after Sienna left, Ruffing did not sleep. Instead, he made a phone call. A few moments later, 2 men who looked like bodyguards knocked and entered. They moved a large folding screen to the side of the bed in the bedroom, then stood on either side of it. One of them looked at the bedroom door and called out, "Come in." A man with brown hair, pale skin, and blue eyes, a foreigner, walked in nonchalantly. He faced the screen and said in perfect French, "My esteemed sir, your mansion is truly a sight to behold." One of the bodyguards said impatiently, "Don't you speak English?" The foreigner shrugged, sat casually in a chair, and said in a stilted accent, "Not very much. I fear I cannot express my admiration. Is that the right word? Heh. By the way, the money you promised me, isn't it time you paid up?" The bodyguard replied curtly, "You haven't killed the person you were hired to kill yet. What's the rush? You've already received the down payment." A flash of malice crossed the foreigner's eyes. He forced a smile. "That director, what's his name? I can make him have an accidental death tonight. I guarantee the medical examiner won't find a trace. That's my specialty. The problem is, you people keep making me wait. The money I'm talking about is the payment for the information I gave you. The things I told you yesterday, aren't they worth anything? This gentleman here promised me himself. You can't go back on your word." The bodyguard was about to speak again when Ruffin coughed a few times. "I won't short you a single cent of what I promised. The problem is the information you provided. I can't yet confirm if it's true or false." The foreigner looked exasperated. He paused, then pulled a photo from his pocket and tossed it to the bodyguard. "I knew you'd say that. Here, you can verify this. This picture was taken 5 years ago. See if it's real." The bodyguard glanced at the photo, then handed it to Ruffin. The photo was of Ethan Vance and the foreigner on a yacht. A few days ago, the reason Ruffin had gone to Hong Kong was because he had used his connections to get in touch with an organization of assassins. The goal was to eliminate Director Quentin Irons. The special envoy had been closing in, and the network of disciples Ruffin had cultivated in Port Sterling's government were all under scrutiny. This gave him a sense of crisis. On top of that, Jason Croft's death had caused such a stir it had even alarmed the capital, which only strengthened the task force's resolve. However, the consequences of assassinating a federal official were more than he could bear. That was why he had gone to great lengths to find an assassin who specialized in making deaths look like accidents, to eliminate the threat once and for all. Coincidentally, when the bodyguard was giving the top-tier assassin his assignment, hearing the words Port Sterling, The normally calm assassin had suddenly become agitated. He had even asked a strange question. "The Port Sterling you speak of, is there a Vance family there?" The bodyguard was surprised and reported this to Ruff. Later, Ruff called the assassin personally. The assassin only told him that he had an old friend in Port Sterling, none other than the Vance family's young master who had been kidnapped, but they had long since had a falling out. Ruff wanted to get to the bottom of it, but the assassin refused to say more. It wasn't until last night, when Ruff promised a handsome reward, that the assassin finally opened up. It turned out that this top-tier French assassin had once been a member of Ethan Vance's team. Last night, he had told Ruff everything, how Ethan became a pirate, then an arms dealer, and was later forced to go to Mexico. Everything. Looking at the photo in his hand, Ruff no longer had any doubts, but he was still puzzled. Since you were brothers who went through life and death together, why did you have a falling out? The foreigner pursed his lips. "You should have noticed I'm an addict. Stephen, he hates addicts more than anything. In your words, we had irreconcilable differences. In short, it was very unpleasant." Ruffin was silent for a moment, then changed the subject. "For the time being, you will live here. Don't wander around. We don't want to attract attention." The foreigner was displeased. "Hey, when are we making a move? I don't want to waste too much time here. I'll pay you extra by the day. You just be on standby," Ruffin said. "If you get bored, I'll give you a car. You could drive around the area, just don't go too far." After all, the target was a high-ranking official. Unless absolutely necessary, this was a risky move he preferred not to make. Finding the assassin in advance was just a precaution, a preparation for the worst-case scenario. Even if he didn't need to kill Director Irons, it was only a small price to pay. Hearing the offer of more money, the assassin didn't argue further. As he was about to get up and leave, Ruff suddenly asked, "You and Ethan Vance, you must have a grudge, right?" The assassin paused, then asked in return, "Actually, I'm also curious. Why are you so interested in his past? What kind of grudge do you have with him?" Ruffin didn't answer directly. Instead, he said, "To kill him. How much would it cost?" The assassin's eyes were full of mockery. "As I thought, my dear big brother is still so good at making enemies. But his contract I don't want to take. Did you forget what I told you? He and his brothers are all top-notch fighters. Especially that Finn. He's ex-special forces. When it comes to killing, he's worth 10 of me." As he finished, the bodyguard standing by the bed sneered. "Is that all the courage you have? I don't think you have any real skill. You say you specialize in accidents, but doesn't that just mean you rely on luck? I don't think you're worth." Before he could finish, the assassin launched himself forward. In what seemed like an instant, the gun from the bodyguard's hip was in his hand, pointed at the other bodyguard. The two bodyguards were dumbfounded, frozen in place. The assassin smiled and shook his head mockingly. "I may not have any real skill, but you two seem to be even more useless." He then looked toward the screen, his gaze restless, as if he wanted to see what the old man behind it looked like. Ruffin was calm. "That's enough. You can go rest. We'll talk about Ethan Vance later." The assassin looked at the two bodyguards, tossed the gun back to its owner, and turned to leave. "I'm not looking for a death wish. There's nothing to talk about when it comes to him." Watching the assassin leave the bedroom, the two bodyguards felt a flush of shame, standing by the bed with their heads hung low. Ruffin coughed for a moment, then asked unexpectedly, "When you were in Hong Kong meeting with this assassin's organization, did you feel like anything was off?" The bodyguard on the left paused, then shook his head. "No, I followed the address and phone number you gave me to find the contact. And I followed your instructions to finalize the selection of this assassin. In their organization, he's the only one who specializes in accidental deaths." Ruffin fell into deep thought. The bodyguard was confused. "Sir, why do you want him to kill Ethan Vance? We don't seem to have a reason to eliminate him." "It's too much of a coincidence," Ruffin said. "In an entire organization of assassins, he's the only one who can make a death look like an accident, and he just happens to be an old acquaintance of Ethan Vance. It's just too much of a coincidence." The bodyguard finally understood. "I see. You were testing him just now, worried that he hadn't actually fallen out with Ethan, and might even be one of Ethan's men? I don't think there's a problem with him. If there was, he wouldn't have told us he knew Ethan in the first place. Besides, our target is the special envoy. It has nothing to do with Ethan." Ruffin pondered for a moment. "For the next few days, take him somewhere else. Observe him carefully. In the meantime, I'll use my connections to find another suitable candidate. If I can't find a second option, then as a last resort, we'll have to use him." The bodyguard pursed his lips. "Sir, why don't I just find a terminal cancer patient, give his family a large sum of money, and have him run over Director Irons with a car? That would be an accident, wouldn't it? Why go through all this trouble?" "That's the kind of stupid plan I'd expect from you, Koff," Ruffung said. Is that any different from just shooting him? My name is already on Director Irons' hit list. You probably haven't heard about that case from years ago. A 4-person investigative team sent from the capital, all dead overnight. And those 4 were just low-level clerks. But because of what happened to them, Port Sterling's economic development was set back by more than a decade. All the suspects involved in the case vanished without a trace. Murdering a government official, legally speaking, is a death sentence at the very least. But if the circumstances are serious enough, it's no longer about the law. There's no need to investigate for evidence. All you need is a list. Understand? A wave of fear washed over the bodyguard. He swallowed hard, then asked, puzzled, "Sir, I just don't understand. Why is this Director Irons so fixated on you? I heard he gave up a promotion to volunteer for this assignment in Port Sterling." Ruff smiled faintly. The investigative team back then was coming for the Red Tower. The team leader also had the surname Irons. So that's how it is. The bodyguard was astonished. He asked thoughtlessly then, "Was that case really related to you, sir?" Ruff turned his head slightly and glanced at the bodyguard. The man finally realized his impudence. "I'm sorry, sir. I spoke out of turn." Ruff sighed deeply. "You two are the people I trust most, but there are some things you shouldn't ask. It's for your own good. Remember, if I don't make it out of this, you must get Yao Yao safely out of the country. Do you understand?" "Rest assured, sir." Boston. After Finn miraculously woke up, he was kept under observation in the ICU for 10 days before being moved to a regular room. The surgery had been a success. Dr. Rowan had even said he could likely be discharged in about 2 weeks. The day after Finn was moved to a regular room was a Saturday. Ethan went to the airport early in the morning to pick up Isabel. His beautiful wife, ever since that phone call with Sienna, had been swimming in a sea of jealousy. Not only did she insist on video calling him late every night, but she also flew to Boston every weekend, ostensibly to visit Finn, but really to keep an eye on him. At 9 o'clock, the flight from Port Sterling landed on time. For privacy, Ethan didn't go to the arrivals gate. Instead, he rented a sports car and waited in the underground parking garage. About 20 minutes later, Isabel appeared in a wine-red dress, carrying a small red purse. Ethan quickly got out of the car and strode toward her. Seeing Ethan, Isabel quickened her pace, a relaxed and joyful smile spreading across her face. As the distance between them closed, Ethan opened his arms and pulled the beautiful woman into his embrace, planting a long kiss on her lips. Isabel blushed, gently patting his chest. "That's enough." Ethan grinned roguishly. "Wife, here to catch me cheating again." Isabel rolled her eyes at him. "Yeah, problem? No problem. How about I approve a 2-week vacation for you? You could just stay in Boston. Save you the trip back and forth. Get lost. I have a lot of work at the office. Come on, let's go to the hospital. We could talk on the way." At the hospital, Jax was by Finn's bedside, laughing and telling jokes to Kimberly Frost over a video call. Kimberly wasn't particularly amused, but on the other side of the bed, Dr. Zoe Russell was laughing like a madwoman. Finn stared at her, his gaze a little dazed. "Hi, Sheba," he muttered. Although he could make expressions now, the novelty had worn off, and he found it rather dull. Or rather, there was nothing that made him particularly happy. He had mostly reverted to his usual expressionless state, occasionally glaring at Jax when he got too annoying. Soon, Ethan and Isabel arrived at the hospital. They had just gotten out of the elevator on Finn's floor when, as luck would have it, Victor Vance called. Without a second thought, Ethan sent Isabel ahead to the room while he answered the phone. "Son, did you pick up Isabel?" "Yeah. How did you know she was coming today?" Victor replied. "She came to the manor last night. I had Dr. Holloway give her a therapy session. According to him, her symptoms are much less pronounced. Son, don't you think you two should consider having a baby?" Ethan was speechless. It wasn't hard to guess that with Zoe out of town and Isabel desperate for treatment, she had gone to Victor for help. "Are you calling for a reason? If not, I'm hanging up." Yes. Victor said quickly. "I have some breakthrough news. That joker," he confessed. Many years ago, the Celestial Axis had him assassinate a member of an investigative team sent from the capital to Port Sterling. The Joker. Ethan's attention immediately focused on him. "You broke him?" he asked, incredulous. Victor chuckled. "It was a bit of an effort, but he's very obedient now. When you get back, if you're interested, you can take him for a walk. He doesn't bite. Not anymore. Not for the rest of his life." Ethan's brow furrowed slightly. After a moment of silence, he asked, "What did you just say?" "The Celestial Axis assassinated an investigator before? When was this?" "Over a decade ago," Victor said. "Back then, the corruption in Port Sterling's government was rampant, and all signs pointed to the Red Tower. The capital sent 4 officials to secretly investigate. But on their third day in the city, all 4 of them were dead overnight. 3 were burned alive in a fire. The 4th was out meeting an informant that night and escaped the flames, but he was sniped and killed while trying to flee Port Sterling. This man's surname was Irons. He was director Quentin Irons' younger brother. This news was a genuine shock to Ethan. Victor continued, that incident was a huge deal back then. Many people involved were secretly arrested, and the media never reported on it, so not many people know. But then again, the master of the Red Tower must have connections that reach the heavens to cause such a stir and still get away with it, just by handing over a few scapegoats. And for all these years, no one has investigated the Red Tower again, until Quentin Irons volunteered, practically carrying his own coffin into Port Sterling. In the end, he's here for revenge. Ethan wasn't actually interested in these political machinations. What shocked him was the revelation that the Red Tower was truly connected to the Celestial Axis. Could the mysterious owner of the Red Tower be the leader of the Celestial Axis? Hearing no response from his son, Victor knew what he was thinking. It's not impossible, but that old bastard is too cautious. Very few people have seen his true face. At this point, Victor took a sharp breath. Son, you need to stay calm. Jonathan Croft cannot die this early. Ethan's voice was cool. Whether he dies or not can be decided later. But I at least need to have a chat with him, don't I? Listen to me. Don't spook him yet. Questioning Jonathan Croft is far less effective than me forcing the master of the Red Tower out into the open. And don't even think about asking your grandfather. He sees the big picture. He'll never tell you. Ethan was silent for a moment, then muttered, doesn't he have a feud with the Celestial Axis? If the owner of the Red Tower is their leader, how could they have coexisted peacefully for so many years? That's why everything is just speculation right now. Maybe back then, the master of the Red Tower used his connections to find the Celestial Axis and have them do his dirty work. Anyway, you need to wait for me. Let me force the master of the Red Tower out first. Then, whatever you want to know, you can ask him directly. I won't stop you. Ethan hesitated. Victor pleaded, for God's sake, son, don't mess this up. I'm at a critical stage. Jonathan Croft must not die. Ethan took a deep breath, his eyes darting from side to side with a mischievous glint. He mimicked Victor's tone and said with a faint smile, fair enough, fair enough. Victor was speechless. How about this? Victor negotiated. Give me 1 month. Can you do that? Within 1 month, I will absolutely bring the Croft family to ruin. Ethan replied, fair enough. Victor bargained again, 5 days. Fair enough. 20 days. Just 20 days. Deal. Finn would be out of the hospital in about 2 weeks. 20 days was more than enough time. Ethan tilted his head back, looking at the clear sky outside the window, and let out a long breath. The truth seemed to be within reach. Victor glanced around, then leaned in conspiratorially. What kind of monster did I raise? He grumbled. Is he really here just to collect a debt? Just then, a woman with long legs and a form-fitting skirt, black stockings, and high heels, the standard secretary uniform, walked in. Seeing Victor on the sofa, she gave him a seductive smile and strode over. Her hands landed naturally on his shoulders, gently kneading as she said, Sir, there's new information. Victor, still vexed about his unmanageable son, grunted absently. Go on. The secretary reported, first, the second branch has already entered the development zone project. All the necessary payments have been made. However, judging by Jonathan Croft's reaction, he intends to stall on returning our money and is determined to fight us in court. Victor was unconcerned. I know that. What else? The secretary continued. Second, Jonathan Croft is holding a casting call today. They're all first and second year students from the Port Sterling University Dance Department. No one over 20. I heard they're having a velvet stage performance tonight at the Sky Garden. Victor paused, then cursed under his breath. That son of a bitch enjoys life more than I do. Tell me, why didn't he invite me? Huh? I even want to cry at his son's funeral. So rude. The secretary was silent. Victor mused. Who's all invited? That. I haven't been able to find out yet. That bastard Tanner is definitely on the list. He hasn't been eager to answer my calls lately. Let him have his fun tonight. Tomorrow morning, you go give him a little reminder. The secretary nodded. Which video should I use? Victor thought for a moment. Doesn't he have that one that's less than a minute long, where the girl even gives him a pinky finger gesture to mock him? I remember. He almost beat that girl to death. A man's dignity. Use that one. Anything else? The secretary couldn't help but stifle a laugh. She paused. Miss Vance seems to have been in contact with Director Irons. Victor's mouth fell open, his expression even more troubled. He pulled the secretary into his lap and buried his face in her shoulder. Why is my life so hard? It's bad enough my son doesn't acknowledge me, But now my daughter is trying to get me arrested. You have to comfort me. My heart hurts so much. I think it's beating too fast. Come on, let me feel your heartbeat, for comparison. The secretary wrapped her arms around her boss's neck, a playful smile on her face. Sir, you're so naughty. At the same time, in a hotel ballroom, more than 20 beautiful young dance students stood in 2 rows. They wore matching tank top dresses, all without a speck of makeup, their faces radiating identical confident smiles. Sienna Sterling sat in a chair, her expression numb, her eyes scanning the faces of the 2 rows of women, a flicker of something unreadable in her gaze. These girls were mostly 18, some even 17. They had all heard that Croft Consolidated's performance troupe was looking for a few part-time members and had come to try their luck. After all, who didn't know the troupe offered incredible compensation? For example, the star of the PSU dance department 4 years ago was now the director of the Croft troupe, with an annual salary in the millions. With such a temptation, who wouldn't dream of it? An hour later, the young woman who was always by Sienna Sterling's side hurried into the auditorium. She carried a manila folder, which she handed to Sienna. Ma'am, she said, the medical reports for the girls. Sienna opened the folder and flipped through the reports one by one. In truth, she was only focused on one section, the infectious disease panel at the end of each report. After confirming they were all clear, she went back to the beginning, scrutinizing each page. In the end, she discarded a few with minor blemishes, leaving a neat stack of 20. And the background checks? Sienna asked. The woman lowered her voice. Mr. Croft said he's already vetted all their families. There won't be any surprises. Sienna took a breath and looked out at the young women again. After a moment of silence, she turned back to her assistant. What about the people I asked you to arrange? Haven't you found enough? I've only managed to gather 5. They're waiting outside, the woman said. It was too short notice. The requirements for age and appearance were too strict. And the regulars from the Red Tower, all the powerful men have seen them. We can't fool them. Sienna grunted in acknowledgement. The Velvet Stage requires a minimum of 15 performers. Go ahead and cut another 10 of these college girls. Anyone under 18 is out. No exceptions. The assistant's face clouded with difficulty. Ma'am, if you do this, Mr. Croft will complain to the gentleman about you. It's fine. Just do as I say. Have them perform their talents. The more awkward and shy they are, the faster you cut them. The woman said no more, but the look she gave Sienna was full of warmth. She knew exactly why Sienna was doing this. After rounds of talent showcases, the 20 finalists were cut in half. The rejected girls were all crestfallen, their shoulders slumped in defeat. They looked at the 10 chosen girls with eyes full of envy or jealousy. Some even cursed the heavens under their breath, wondering why such staggering fortune couldn't fall upon them. One of them, a 17-year-old with a high ponytail, her face dark with anger, glared at Sienna and demanded coldly, Didn't you say you needed at least 15 people? Why did you only keep 10? Sienna didn't even glance at her. She silently lit a cigarette, her expression unreadable. The girl wouldn't let it go. What exactly is wrong with me? Based on looks, figure, and talent, I shouldn't have been eliminated. Sienna still ignored her, turning to her assistant. Bring the other 5 in. Send the ones who were cut back to their schools. A few moments later, the assistant led her 5 recruits into the auditorium. Though these 5 were also young and beautiful, they couldn't hide the seductive, worldly air that clung to them. Every glance, every smile was laced with the scent of the trade. It was obvious they were all high-class escorts. Sienna gave them a cursory glance and said, Take them backstage for makeup. Once they're ready, have them try on their costumes. We'll do a simple rehearsal this afternoon. She then crooked a finger at her young assistant. As the woman leaned in, Sienna whispered, Go easy on the makeup for the 5 you brought. And give them a heads up. Tell them to tone it down. We can't have the clients figuring out what they do for a living. Understood. The assistant nodded. But as she turned to leave, the high ponytail girl stormed up to Sienna and flung the contents of her water bottle in her face. This is a setup. They didn't even have to perform. The young assistant gasped. Reacting instantly, she raised her hand to strike the girl. But before the slap could land, Sienna stopped her. Go. Do your work. With that, Sienna turned to the high ponytail girl. She didn't bother wiping the water from her face, nor did she look particularly angry. You have a problem with this? She asked calmly. The girl gritted her teeth. Why do they get to be chosen with just a word from you, without performing? Just like you said. It's a setup, Sienna said with a faint smile. Today, I'll teach you the first lesson of the real world. Connections are everything. If you don't like it, feel free to report me. The high ponytail girl was fuming. She glared at Sienna, her cold tone laced with a warning. Do you have any idea who I am? Hearing this, the young assistant, who was busy instructing the 5 escorts, froze in disbelief. There are many ways to commit suicide, but this isn't one of them. Sienna just shrugged. I'm all ears. The girl, a college freshman, had no idea who Sienna Sterling was. Assuming she was just some employee of the Croft family, she declared haughtily, "You just wait." She then pulled out her phone, dialed a number, and immediately began to cry, dramatically recounting the injustice she had suffered. A moment later, she walked back to Sienna and held out the phone with a smirk. "Here, it's for you." Unfazed, Sienna glanced at the screen. The contact name was Evan. "Mr. Evan." "Ms. Sterling," Evan said, getting straight to the point. "This girl is excellent in every way. Don't you think you should keep her?" When he said the word excellent, he put a slight emphasis on it. On the surface, he was praising the girl, but he was sending Sienna a clear message. She's easy to handle and plays the game. Sienna chuckled. "It seems you've already had a taste of the grapes." Evan gave a hollow laugh. "I'm the one who personally handles the corporation's financial aid grants to the universities. I kept her contact info just to, follow up. The chairman has seen her file, and he also thinks she's excellent in every way." Sienna's tone turned mocking. "A dance major on financial aid? Please." With that, she hung up and tossed the phone back to the girl, her eyes glinting with even more ridicule. "You're in. Go get your makeup done." Hearing Sienna relent, the high ponytail girl grew even more arrogant. "Now you know who you're dealing with, right?" she gloated, glancing back at the other eliminated girls as if to show off. Sienna's reply was indirect. "You've taught me a lesson, too. Connections really are everywhere." She didn't know who this girl was, but she knew exactly what this girl would be after tonight. "And what about the rest of you?" Sienna walked over to the remaining 9 girls. "Do you have connections?" The girls exchanged uncertain glances, remaining silent. "No connections, and you still dream of reaching the sky in a single bound? On what grounds? Huh? Do you think you're worthy?" Sienna's tone was playful but sharp. "The car is downstairs. Go back to school. Study hard, make progress every day, and stop daydreaming." Her words were harsh, so harsh that the young women couldn't grasp their meaning. They glared at Sienna, every one of them blaming this glamorous woman for being too cynical, too cruel. After they had all left the auditorium, the young assistant strode to Sienna's side and sighed. "Ma'am, you went out on a limb for them, giving Mr. Croft an excuse to criticize you, and in the end, you don't even get a word of thanks. It's not fair to you." Sienna said nothing, simply turning and walking toward the restroom. She had been rained on before, so she just wanted to hold an umbrella for others if she could. There were some things in the world that young, naive girls should never see, never be curious about, and certainly never aspire to. The chosen girls rehearsed until late into the evening. With their dance backgrounds and the simple choreography, they mastered the routine quickly. By now, their movements were perfectly synchronized, flawless. Sienna checked the time. 9 o'clock. It was about time to leave. She gathered everyone together. Then, she handed each of them a thick red envelope containing $20,000. The girls stared at the wads of cash in their hands, their hearts filled with delight. If they were getting this much just for being selected, the future pay must be incredible. Triumph Corporation has always been strict in selecting members for its dance troupe, Sienna announced. To be honest, this afternoon's selection was just the preliminary audition. Your performance tonight is what truly matters. Professionals will be there to decide who stays and who goes. She paused. However, we are not stingy. Even if you're not chosen tonight, you don't have to return the money. Consider it payment for your hard work. The girls buzzed with excitement, but mostly they prayed for themselves, hoping their performance tonight would go off without a hitch so they could truly become members of the famous dance troupe. A 7-figure salary seemed just within reach. "Pack your things," Sienna said. "We're leaving now." The high ponytail girl asked, confused. "We're not performing here? Where are we going?" Sienna shot her a sharp look. "Haydong City. We're taking the company's private jet. We'll be back tomorrow morning." "What?" The auditorium erupted in chaos. "All of you shut your mouths. If you can't go, back out now. Take your 20 grand and get lost. Opportunities like this are rare, but we're not short on girls who can dance." The girls fell silent, clutching the cash in their hands, their eyes full of anticipation. Most of the calamities that befall humanity are born from greed. An hour later, they were all brought to the airport. When they saw Triumph Corporation's luxurious private jet, any lingering anxiety was replaced by shock and longing. It was an Airbus ACJ320neo, a model that had consistently ranked in the top 3 private jets worldwide for years. The interior was lavish and spacious, essentially a flying luxury penthouse. Watching the dazed, starstruck expressions on the girls' faces, Sienna remained impassive. "I'll ask you one last time," she said. "Does anyone want to back out?" Everyone shook their heads. "Good. All phones off. Prepare for boarding." With that, she handed each of them a piece of chewing gum. "You just had dinner. Freshen your breath. Several company executives in charge of the dance troupe are on the plane. Don't leave a bad impression over a small detail like this." The college students were obedient enough, but the 5 professional escorts were more cautious. They kept the gum, but didn't chew it. Sienna paid them no mind. After all, they didn't need to. As she watched the girls board the plane, Sienna slowly closed her eyes, her expression deeply complicated. That plane was the so-called Sky Garden. Jason Croft had tried to imitate the Velvet Stage before, but he had never grasped its essence. What good was the Jade Rabbit if it wasn't in the sky? In reality, this whole scheme wasn't Jonathan Croft's idea. It was the brainchild of the Velvet Stage's founder, Ruff. In all the world, there was likely no safer guest house than this, a place where one could do whatever one pleased. As the cabin door slowly sealed shut, Sienna felt as if she were watching the gates of hell swing open. She let out a long sigh and murmured, "How could I not go to hell?" Her young assistant, who had been by her side the whole time, hesitated, unsure of what to say. After a long moment, she finally spoke. "Ma'am, whatever happens, it's not your fault. You did your best." Sienna shook her head. She stared at the young woman for a moment, her brow furrowed. "Why is your face so pale? Are you thinking about those things again?" The woman instinctively glanced at the jet, then slowly lowered her head, wrapping her arms tightly around Sienna's. 3 years ago, she too had been a victim of the Sky Garden. The same selection process, the same drug chewing gum. Less than 10 minutes after boarding the plane, she had become inexplicably high, a puppet at the mercy of others. She couldn't remember the details of what happened. She only remembered that when she regained her senses, the dark cabin was filled with a rank, foul stench. That Sky Garden held the vilest aspects of human nature, the truest face of beasts. If she hadn't experienced it herself, she would never have believed that the impeccably dressed, cultured, and moral Deputy Mayor Tanner was, in fact, a sadistic monster. "Don't think about it. Let's go back to the Red Tower," Sienna said, embracing the young woman. "I can't protect everyone, but I can promise that you girls will never have to go through that again. As for Tanner, I'll kill him sooner or later." At the same time, at Phoenix Crest Manor, Victor Vance, fresh from a shower, sat on the living room sofa in a bathrobe and called Eva. She answered quickly. "What is it?" Victor chuckled. "Honey, why haven't you been to the manor lately? Even if you don't want to see me, you should at least come visit your grandfather." "I'm busy. I don't have time." "Oh, another big case? My, being a cop is such a thankless job. Do you need something or not?" Victor felt a wave of frustration. It wasn't like he was a troublemaker, was it? Why did both his son and daughter love to hit him with that line? It made him feel more annoying than a housefly. "Dad's just worried about you, that's all. You're always so busy. If you don't need anything, I'm hanging up." No, wait. I do. Victor laughed awkwardly. Then his tone shifted abruptly. Could you set up a meeting for me with Director Irons? That should be easy enough for you, right?" Eva was suddenly stunned. "How did you know I'm working for Director Irons?" Victor played dumb, acting even more shocked than she was. "What? You're working for Director Irons? Quentin Irons? Since when?" Eva was silent. "Victor, are you serious right now? How in the world did you find out about my connection to Director Irons?" "Oh, honey, you've got it all wrong. I was talking about Captain Morrison, the head of your city's gang unit." "You must have misheard me," Victor said smoothly. He paused. "But Director Irons works too. I have a major situation to report to him." Eva's voice was sharp. "What are you plotting now? You detectives? Why do you see everyone as a criminal?" "Huh, I really do have something very important to report to him." "Then just go to the task force headquarters." Too many eyes and ears there. I don't trust it. Ultimately, I'm reporting something extraordinary. I have to think about my own safety, don't I? After all, I'm just an ordinary citizen." As Victor spoke, he smiled mysteriously. "And haven't you wondered how I knew about your relationship with Quentin Irons? There's a bad apple in your organization. A very bad one." Eva bit her lip. Only one other person knew she was working for Quentin Irons, his secretary, Mr. Evans. "Victor Vance, you're overreaching." Victor clicked his tongue. "Who have I reached out to? Stop thinking the worst of me. Anyway, you have to set up that meeting for me, okay?" Eva snorted. "Who do you think you are? You think you can just see Director Irons whenever you want? I'm just a law-abiding, patriotic, ordinary citizen with a conscience. How about this? Give him a message for me. Just 2 words. Yuanding. Time and place, he can decide." The next morning, Sienna went to the hotel early, waiting to clean up the mess for the powerful men. Soon enough, Evan, who had gone to the airport to pick them up, brought everyone to the hotel. The dignitaries went to their respective rooms, while the girls were all herded into a presidential suite. The young women, who just yesterday had been full of joy and fantasies about the future, were now mostly dazed and despondent after their night of initiation. Their faces were uniformly pale. Of course, some were still overjoyed. Sienna, accustomed to this, instructed her people to handle things according to the old rules, a mix of threats and inducements. For these fledgling birds who had never even stepped into the real world, compromise was their only option. Everything was proceeding smoothly. In fact, a few of the girls had successfully latched onto powerful patrons last night and needed no warning at all. They eagerly scurried off to their benefactors' rooms, ready for a more in-depth exchange. But the high ponytail girl, the one who had been so arrogant yesterday, believing her connections made her untouchable, took everyone by surprise. She quietly grabbed a vase, smashed it over Evan's head, and then burst into heart-wrenching sobs. "Didn't you say you'd marry me after I graduate? Didn't you say you'd help me get into the dance troupe and do everything you could to make me the lead? Liar. Wah." Evan clutched the wound on his head, shot her a mocking glance, and couldn't be bothered to respond. He casually strolled into the bathroom. The girl tried to follow, but two of Sienna's subordinates restrained her and brought her before their boss. Looking at the girl's bruised face, Sienna felt a pang of discomfort. After all, she had once undergone the same baptism by fire. But on the surface, she remained calm, a faint smile on her lips. "You have a problem with this?" The girl's eyes were blurry with tears, her expression one of utter despair. She stared blankly at Sienna, unable to speak for a long moment. Last night, she had noticed how casually the 5 girls Sienna had handpicked had catered to the clients. It wasn't hard to guess their profession. Now, she finally understood. The woman she had thrown water on yesterday had actually been trying to protect her, but the regret came too late. "I'm calling the police." Hearing those words, Sienna sighed softly. She leaned in and whispered, "Go ahead. But let me remind you, the biggest cop in Port Sterling was on that plane last night." The high ponytail girl froze, her eyes fixed on Sienna. "And the one who hit you is even more powerful than him," Sienna added casually, lighting a cigarette. The girl burst into tears. They did things to me." "A group activity?" Sienna's eyes were cold, her voice flat. "And they beat you black and blue. Well, you chose this. I didn't know it would be like this. I just wanted to dance. I wanted to join the dance troupe." "Stop kidding yourself," Sienna said. "What kind of dancing pays 7 figures a year?" "Huh." A 3-year-old could see through that. "You just didn't imagine they'd be so depraved. It exceeded the limits of what you thought human vileness could be." The girl was speechless, utterly ashamed. Just then, Deputy Mayor Tanner, having finished freshening up in his room, happened to pass by the suite. Tying his tie, he smiled and nodded at Sienna. "Ms. Sterling, my apologies for the trouble." The high ponytail girl looked as if she'd seen a ghost and quickly shrank behind Sienna. "Leaving already?" Sienna asked with a half-smile. Tanner's face was glowing. He chuckled. "I have a mountain of official business to attend to. The development zone is completely draining me." Deputy Mayor Tanner, working himself to the bone. "The people of Port Sterling are so lucky to have you." Sienna's voice was laced with sarcasm. She slowly stood up, then suddenly slapped Tanner across the face. Her expression turned icy. "Have I or have I not warned you to control yourself?" She slapped him again. "You beat her up like this. How am I supposed to clean this up for you?" Tanner was stunned by the slaps. When he recovered, he quickly started apologizing. "I drank a little too much last night." Seeing Tanner's groveling, pathetic demeanor, a thoughtful look appeared in the high ponytail girl's eyes. "You'd better rein it in. Get out." Sienna swore. Tanner practically fled toward the elevators. Who are you?" the girl asked, looking at Sienna. Sienna took a drag from her cigarette, her reply indirect. $500,000. It'll be in your account in 2 hours. Go find yourself a good therapist. And a piece of advice, don't go looking for death." The girl swallowed hard, her trembling hands clutching Sienna's sleeve. Can I follow you from now on?" Looking at the mix of hope, fear, and a flicker of ambition in her eyes, Sienna saw a reflection of her past self. After a long moment, she said coolly, "Go back to school and study. Stop daydreaming. An education is the most accessible form of nobility. It's 1,000 times more real than the high-class life these socialites flaunt online." After sending the girl off, the young woman who was always by Sienna's side asked, puzzled, "Ma'am, wasn't that how I started following you?" Why did you reject her? Sienna didn't explain, just silently smoked her cigarette. She didn't want anyone else to follow in her footsteps. Besides, she had a bad feeling. It was hard to say if the Red Tower could even survive its encounter with Quinn Irons. She could feel that Mr. Ruff, unlike in the past, no longer had everything under control. He seemed unsettled. Many things appeared to be spiraling in an uncontrollable direction. And Quentin Irons aside, the one stirring the pot was Victor Vance, that old fox who said fair enough to everything but in reality left no one a path to survival. Meanwhile, Tanner, still stinging from the 2 slaps, was driven to a secluded parking lot. Only after the Croft family's man had left did he dare to vent his fury. Damn it, you slut Sienna, you just wait. I'll destroy you. A fucking canary dares to challenge a god. He muttered curses for 2 minutes before getting into his own cheap domestic car to drive home. His official driver was already waiting in the underground garage with the city-issued Audi A6. Tanner went upstairs, changed his clothes, grabbed his briefcase, and returned to the garage. Just as he was about to get into the car, a Porsche 911 suddenly pulled up beside him. The driver's window rolled down, and Victor Vance's secretary, the same young woman who had comforted him all afternoon yesterday, greeted him warmly. "Good morning, Deputy Mayor." Tanner recognized her, of course. After all, he used to be one of Victor Vance's protectors. But the death of Mayor Cole and the subsequent incident where Jason Croft had splattered him with his own blood had been a rude awakening. He no longer dared to associate with Victor, choosing to side with the Croft family instead. So he gave the secretary a dismissive reply. "Morning. I have official business to attend to. Goodbye." The secretary smiled brightly and tossed him a phone. "My chairman asked me to give you a small gift. Please accept it. I won't disturb you any longer." With that, the Porsche sped away. Tanner looked at the phone in his hand. After a moment of thought, he pressed the power button. The phone had no password, no lock screen. When the screen lit up, his eyes fell upon a video already playing. Hearing the indescribable sounds coming from the video, his driver quickly scurried back into the car, practicing a policy of see no evil, hear no evil. Tanner's eyes widened, his hand clenching the phone. He roared, "You old bastard. You're asking for it." Phoenix Crest Manor. Victor Vance lay comfortably on a lounge chair on the balcony, a beautiful young woman gently massaging his temples. The phone on the tea table buzzed incessantly with calls from an unknown number. The woman asked, puzzled, "Chairman, who is that?" Victor kept his eyes closed, a slight smile playing on his lips. "You answer it. Tell him I'm at the manor." The woman agreed and picked up the phone. The moment she answered, Deputy Mayor Tanner's furious roar erupted from the other end. She was baffled by the cursing and, feeling her own temper rise, shot back. "Who are you calling an old bastard? You're the old bastard. Ugh, you old degenerate." Tanner was stunned into silence. After a moment, he asked through gritted teeth, "Where is Victor Vance?" "At the manor. What's wrong with you?" After hanging up, Victor couldn't help but chuckle. "You know who that was before you start yelling at him?" "Heh. In ancient times, insulting a high-ranking official like that would get your head chopped off." The woman was unconcerned. "I don't care who he is. He can't insult you." "Oof." Victor shook his head, his eyes narrowing slightly. After taking a breath, he said abruptly, "I remember. You're turning 25 soon, aren't you?" "I'm only 24, the woman pouted. "You have too many women. You can never remember." "Humph." Victor chuckled. "You like luxury goods, don't you? I've given you a lot of money. Why don't you open a luxury boutique?" The woman's heart sank. She could tell Victor was kicking her out. "Chairman did. Did I say something wrong? I can apologize to him." Victor waved his hand. "Where are you going with this? I just think I've given you enough money. While you're still young, you should start your own business. It's always better than relying on someone else." Tears welled in the woman's eyes. She hugged Victor tightly, looking at him pitifully. "Chairman, I really do like you. At the end of the day, our relationship was a transaction of mutual consent. You understand? All this talk of love and affection, that's just stories for ghosts," Victor said with a smile. "Listen to me. Pack your things and leave in a little while." How could this old fox not understand the trouble a beautiful woman could bring? He would never keep a woman who grew arrogant from his favor by his side. About half an hour later, Deputy Mayor Tanner stormed into Phoenix Crest Manor, spewing venom the moment he entered Victor's courtyard. "You old bastard. You've gone too far." Victor sat under the gazebo, calmly sipping his tea. He waved away the bodyguards who had moved to intercept, not even glancing at Tanner. Tanner strode into the gazebo and, in a fit of rage, swept the priceless tea set off the stone table. "Victor Vance, you son of a bitch, you've broken the rules. What era are we living in? You're still using these kinds of dirty tricks? Victor sat up straight, his face impassive as he watched him. Tanner, do you have any idea who you're provoking? Huh, this isn't how you play the game. Victor's lips remained tightly sealed. He said nothing. Tanner pointed a finger at him. Give it to me. Give me all the backups. If you don't blame me for turning on you. Victor's gaze grew colder, but still, he remained silent. Tanner gasped for breath, locking eyes with Victor for a dozen seconds before suddenly dropping to his knees, his voice laced with panic. Mr. Vance, I'm sorry. I lost control of my emotions. I'm sorry. Please be merciful, won't you? Let me go, please. Give me a way out. I've only been in this position for a few months. Victor's expression didn't change. He stared at him without blinking, still saying nothing. What the hell do you want? Tanner screamed, slamming his fist on the stone table. You, say something. What do you want me to do? Say it. Victor glanced at Tanner's bleeding fist, his composure unshaken. Vance, don't push me too far. You're trying to kill me. I'm warning you, if my ship goes down, you're going down with me. Tanner pointed a trembling finger at Victor. After a moment of gritting his teeth and seeing Victor still unmoved, he burst into tears, dropping to his knees again. Mr. Vance, I was wrong. Tell me what you want. I'll do anything. The Croft family, is that it? You want to take down Jonathan Croft, right? Fine, I'm on your side. And Triumph Investments, right? I'll fight to the death to get it for you. Okay, I swear on my ancestors. Mr. Vance, just say something. Tanner raved like a madman for over 10 minutes. Victor's silent treatment was a slow, agonizing death by 1,000 cuts. Just as Tanner was about to break, a call from an unknown number came through on Victor's phone. Victor glanced at the D.C. area code, a barely perceptible flicker of cunning in his eyes. He answered leisurely. Hello, Chairman Vance, this is Quentin Irons. Victor stared into Tanner's terrified eyes and smiled. Yes, that's right. It's a truly extraordinary matter I need to report to you about. Irons, Eva said you have something important to report to me in person. Victor stared into Tanner's terrified eyes and smiled. Tanner's heart leaped into his throat. A cold sweat broke out all over his body. Irons, are you free right now? We could have some tea. Victor, yes, I am. I was just counseling an old friend, and I've just finished. Irons, good. Then I'll be waiting for you at Cloud Lake Lodge in the Solstice Room. The moment he hung up, Tanner grabbed Victor's leg. Mr. Vance, what are you doing? You don't have to do this. Victor didn't even look at him. He pulled his leg free and strode toward the courtyard gate. Mr. Vance, wait. Explain yourself. Tanner, in a state of utter panic, chased Victor to the gate, where the female secretary intercepted him. She tossed him a memory card. Deputy Mayor, my chairman has business to attend to. You should stop bothering him. Here, this is for you. There are no backups. Tanner took the card, immediately popped it into his mouth, and swallowed. The secretary smiled mockingly. Deputy Mayor, the chairman has no other intentions. He just wanted to remind you to be careful about everything and not let yourself be blackmailed again. Also, remember this, you don't have a ship. You're a lone boat. If you sink, you sink. You can't crash into us. Take care of yourself. Tanner nodded obediently, trembling as he wiped the sweat from his face. His legs felt so weak he could barely walk back to his car. The secretary's eyes were full of contempt. She muttered to herself, just a duck forced onto a perch. He's nothing compared to Mayor Cole. Useless. Has a red tower really run out of people to use? About 40 minutes later, Victor Vance arrived at Cloud Lake Lodge. Eve was already waiting in the parking lot. When she saw her father's Maybach pull in, she got out of her car and walked over, her face a thundercloud. Honey, Victor, wearing the face of a doting father, beamed. Dad hasn't seen you in so long. Oh my, have you lost weight again? You should never have become a detective. It's such a thankless job, and Eva cut him off. Victor, what kind of game are you playing? Victor pouted. There you go again. Can't you just have a normal conversation with me? I'm getting old. Yuanding. What does it mean? Eva asked coldly. Why did Director Irons agree to meet you the moment he heard that name? The events of that year were too classified for Eva to know the details. Victor chuckled. A gardener. Someone who plants flowers and trees. Teachers are also called that sometimes. Eva was silent. Just then, Mr. Evans strode over, extending his hand from a distance. Chairman Vance, a pleasure. Victor shook his hand. And you are? Mr. Evans. Oh, I'm Director Irons' secretary. You could just call me Evans. Ah, so you're Mr. Evans. My apologies. Mr. Evans smiled. Chairman Vance, let's skip the pleasantries. The director is waiting for you in the private room. He's extremely busy, so you should go see him first. Fair enough, fair enough. Victor chuckled, then turned to Eva. Honey, will you have dinner with your old dad later? No time, Eva said coolly. Victor gave an awkward smile and walked off with Mr. Evans. Please don't mind her, Mr. Evans. My daughter, she has quite a temper. Can you believe it? She's 30 years old and doesn't even have a boyfriend. AI. Eva watched them leave, replaying how her father had deliberately asked Mr. Evans, and you are, right in front of her. It only strengthened her conviction that Mr. Evans was somehow involved with her father. When they reached the private room, Mr. Evans knocked and then turned to leave. Go mean. Upon hearing Director Irons' permission, Victor straightened his tie and pushed the door open. Director Irons, my goodness, I've heard so much about you. Heh. Irons stood to greet him. After shaking hands, they sat down opposite each other. My, how things change. The last time we met, I was in handcuffs. Victor was about to reminisce, but Irons cut him off. Chairman Vance, let's get straight to the point. I'm on a very tight schedule. Victor nodded and considered for a moment. I don't know, Director. Where would you like to start? Irons stared at him. Let's see where Chairman Vance wants to start. Then let's start with Yuan Ding, Victor said, deciding not to beat around the bush. Director Irons should be well aware of who was behind what happened back then, right? Irons hadn't expected the old fox to drop a bombshell right at the start. He was surprised, but didn't show it, shaking his head slightly. I just arrived in Port Sterling. How would I know? But it seems Chairman Vance does. Victor took a sip of tea. It's just a guess. Back then, the investigative team poked at that 9-story demon pagoda, and they all died in a fire overnight. It's not hard to guess who was pulling the strings. Irons, the mastermind? Victor smiled. This, you know better than I do. You two probably know each other. Irons remained impassive. I don't recall knowing such a powerful figure. Victor stared into Irons' eyes for a moment, then lowered his voice. I heard it was the owner of the Red Tower. Irons played dumb. Rumor has it that the owner of the Red Tower is the president of the Port Sterling Chamber of Commerce, Jonathan Croft. Is it him? Victor took a slow breath, looked up at the ceiling, then gently tapped the table. Yes, it's him. A flicker of displeasure crossed Irons' face. So, this old bastard was just here to play games with him today? In the next second, Victor added, but I can't be sure. It's all hearsay. By the way, you know about the celestial axis, right? Irons grunted, waiting for him to continue. Victor went on. The head of the investigative team back then escaped the fire, but was shot and killed on his way out of Port Sterling. The celestial axis was behind that. Irons looked thoughtful. Oh, is that so? Are you sure? Victor, hearsay, all hearsay. Irons seemed to be having more and more trouble understanding what Victor was getting at. After taking a slow sip of tea, he asked, Chairman Vance, is what you came to report to me today just a bunch of hearsay? Victor, I'm providing you with clues. Hearsay. What if it's true? Irons' expression grew serious. I don't like the words, what if? Victor threw up his hands. If you don't like them, then just get rid of them. Irons took a deep breath, his gaze appraising. Victor met his look without flinching, an expression of a pig unafraid of boiling water. After a long moment, Irons spoke. You want to direct my attention to the Croft family, to get my help in dealing with Jonathan Croft? Victor looked horrified, pointing out the window. Director Irons, be careful what you say. If you talk like that, it might start snowing outside. Irons gave a humorless smile. The conflict between your families is no secret. Even so, I wouldn't dare use your sort of state to stab him, would I? Irons considered for a moment. So what you're saying is, you've linked the celestial axis to the Red Tower. Is that it? Victor, hearsay. But since we're on the topic of the Croft family, let me add one more thing. Director Irons, you're a good official who truly works for the people. So, let me give you a heads up. In a few days, there's going to be a major earthquake in Port Sterling. A lot of ordinary people will be displaced. When that time comes, I hope you will properly supervise the city government here and make them give the people an explanation. Irons suddenly felt a sense of foreboding. Earthquake? What earthquake? Perhaps you should ask the weather station. Victor chuckled. Well, I've said what I needed to say. That's all. Goodbye, goodbye. With that, Victor took a sip of tea, his eyes suddenly full of meaning. Director Irons, take care of your health. Then Victor stood up. Ignoring the suspicious look from Irons, he walked to the door. As he was closing it, he sighed again. The earthquake is coming. So many will be displaced. The realization dawned on Quentin Irons. Displaced. He was talking about the real estate industry. It seemed Victor Vance already had victory in his grasp. Victor Vance, are you afraid Jonathan Croft will die? Irons's eyes were complex, his face radiating authority. Victor, with the door half closed, only half his face visible, gave a humorless smile. Director Irons, I don't know what you're talking about. But Chairman Croft is my dearest friend and brother. Of course, I hope he lives a long and healthy life. The earthquake you mentioned, what's the magnitude? Victor slowly shook his head, saying nothing. Irons' face was stern, his voice sharp. What leverage do you have on him? It's all fated. You reap what you sow. Irons stared at the half-face in the doorway, his gaze deepening. After a moment, he lightly tapped the table and said gravely, everything has its limits. If you harm the common people, I'll risk this old body of mine to play this game with you to the very end. Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. As he finished speaking, the old fox closed the door and strolled away, seemingly talking to himself, but loud enough for Irons to hear. Croft Consolidated is not Jonathan Croft's company alone. Irons' expression grew even more serious. Reflecting on Victor's brief but meaningful words, the special envoy from D.C. frowned deeply. After a long while, he let out a strange laugh and shook his head, muttering, so that was the real, painstaking reason he wanted to see me today? A moment later, Mr. Evans entered the room. Director, why did he leave so quickly? Irons smiled faintly. They say Victor Vance is an old fox who has become a spirit. Today, I've seen it with my own eyes. Evans was puzzled. What did he say? Nothing. Evans. And yet, he said everything. Evans. Director, please stop speaking in riddles with me. Irons chuckled and explained. The old fox conveyed 4 messages. First, Jonathan Croft is a stand-in. The mastermind behind him is the real owner of the Red Tower. Second, the Celestial Axis has an inseparable relationship with the Red Tower. Evans frowned. That aligns perfectly with our suspicions. Did he say who the person behind Croft is? Irons smiled. A man like Victor Vance always speaks in half-truths. The half he tells is a mix of real and fake. We have to figure out ourselves. Evans pursed his lips. What was the third point? The earthquake. Evans was completely lost. Earthquake. Irons nodded. An earthquake concerning the Croft family. And I suspect the magnitude won't be small. When you get back to the office, arrange for a team to secretly investigate the completion rates of Croft Consolidated's projects in recent years, as well as all their asset reports for the last decade. Also, Jonathan Croft's personal asset trajectory, including all major shareholder information from the corporation's dividends. I want it all investigated thoroughly, but do not, under any circumstances, alert them. If you run into any trouble, contact D.C. directly. I have a feeling something big is about to happen. No matter what, we have to dig out the full story before Victor Vance makes his move. Evans's expression turned serious. After accepting the task, he mused, did Victor point you toward the Crofts because he wants to borrow our knife to kill Jonathan Croft? The conflict between the Vance and Croft families is an open secret in the political and business worlds by now. No, quite the opposite, Irons said, waving his hand. Victor doesn't want Jonathan Croft to die. In other words, he's very afraid of Jonathan Croft dying. Don't forget, he invested a lot of money into that development zone project. If Croft Consolidated collapses and Jonathan Croft dies, all that money will be gone. So this old fox wants us to protect Jonathan Croft. Evans was flabbergasted. He plays his cards so smoothly. It seems he's certain he can devour the Croft family. But after all this, his only reason for coming today was to keep Jonathan Croft from dying. The first 2 pieces of information were basically useless. By the way, what was the 4th message? Irons glanced at him, his expression inscrutable. Actually, he didn't need to see me at all about the Croft matter. This 4th point was his true purpose for coming today. You can't guess. Evans was as clueless as a monk, slowly shaking his head. Just as Irons was about to explain, Eva Vance burst into the room, glaring at Mr. Evans. Director Irons, I told you yesterday when I called that it was possible Mr. Evans leaked the news of me joining the task force. Now, I can't guarantee he has a private connection with Victor Vance. Evans was stunned. What? No. Where's this coming from? Eva shot back. Besides Director Irons, you were the only one who knew I joined the task force. Explain to me how Victor Vance found out. Her words left Evans frozen in place. He couldn't help but think of how Victor had deliberately asked him, and you are? In front of Eva. Logically, when dealing with government officials, that was the most taboo opening question. How could Victor not know that? So, the old fox's purpose was to make Eva think he was colluding with Victor. And Eva, being impulsive, would definitely report him to Director Irons. Understanding this, Evans suddenly slapped his thigh, caught between laughter and tears. Damn it, that old fox. So this is what he was after? Was it really necessary? To go to all this trouble? Irons was also at a loss for words. He looked at Eva. Eva, you've misunderstood, mister. Evans. He's been with me for over a decade, through thick and thin. He's the person I trust most. Eva stammered. Then how did Victor? It was then that she finally realized her own father had orchestrated a brilliant counter-espionage plot. The goal was to make Director Irons distrust her, and thus kick her off the task force. Director Irons, I swear to God, it wasn't me who told him. Irons smiled. I know, and I trust you completely. However, Eva, you are no longer suitable for the task force. If you can't even detect your own father tailing you, how will you handle people far more cunning than him? It's too dangerous. You should step down. Eva bit her lip, her eyes welling with moisture. But seeing the firm expression on Irons's face, she couldn't argue. Without another word, she turned and ran out of the room. In truth, Victor's only reason for coming today was to ensure his daughter had no further involvement with the task force. As for everything else he said, it was a mix of truth and lies, left for Irons to interpret as he saw fit. Mr. Evans sighed softly. The things parents do for their children. Director, since you saw through Victor's plot, why did you still dismiss Eva? She's a sharp blade. Irons sighed as well. The sharper the blade, the more attention it attracts. Victor understands this, which is why he doesn't want his daughter risking her life with us anymore. Besides, the girl's father came to me personally. I have to give him that much face. But this was also Victor's subtle way of reminding us that danger is coming. Evans, filled with regret, silently took a cloth and wiped down the teacup Victor had used, as well as the table and chair, ensuring no fingerprints were left behind. Irons leaned back in his chair, tilted his head back, and slowly closed his eyes. In fact, he was paying more attention to Victor's parting words, "Take care of your health." He knew that wasn't a warning from Victor. It was a reminder. Half a month passed. Finn had made a full recovery. On the night of his discharge from the hospital in Boston, Ethan hosted a dinner for Dr. Rowan and his family, giving each of them a large red envelope filled with cash. The next morning, he and his team returned to Port Sterling. Victor Vance was already waiting at the VIP arrivals gate. The moment he saw his son emerge, he snatched a large sign from a nearby bodyguard and held it high above his head. Like an old child, he waved the sign, which read, "Welcome home, my son," causing his bodyguards to stifle their laughter, their faces contorted with the effort. They had no choice but to take out the glow sticks they'd been given and wave them back and forth like zombies. Their chairman was a tiger in the outside world, but when it came to his illegitimate son, he was a smiling Buddha. Halfway there, Ethan saw the spectacle and stopped dead in his tracks. He glanced at his dumbfounded team, at Isabel, who was trying hard not to laugh, and at Dr. Zoe Russell, who was laughing so hard she was shaking. It was a scene of epic social death. "Would you believe me if I said I don't know him?" Ethan asked, pointing at his father. Benny grinned. He's the chairman. Your dad." Isabel couldn't hold it in any longer. She lowered her head and laughed for a moment, then linked her arm with Ethan's and strode forward. "Son," Victor said excitedly. "Do you like it?" This is the kind of treatment only a superstar gets." No. Even the biggest superstar in the world wouldn't be worthy of me, old Victor, picking him up personally, let alone holding a sign for him. Ethan's face was a mask. "Thanks so much." Seeing his son's reaction, Victor gave an awkward laugh, tossed the sign to a bodyguard, then grabbed the man's ear and scolded him. "Look at this terrible idea you came up with." The bodyguard thought, when did I ever come up with an idea? Weren't you the one who said all the young people love this sort of thing? Ethan was speechless. All right, let's go." Isabel smiled and greeted him. "Dad, thank you for coming to get us." "Ethan, be nice to your father. Don't be so disrespectful. See? My daughter-in-law is the sensible one. Let's go. We're all heading to the manor. I prepared a family lunch. Let's eat together. Son, Dad really missed you." Ethan rolled his eyes, then looked at Finn. Finn was never one for crowds, and having just recovered from serious illness, his energy was still low. He declined. "I think I'll go home. I'm a bit tired." Hearing this, Zoe, who had been cheerful just a moment ago, instantly deflated. She looked exhausted, leaning on Finn's shoulder and whining. "I'm so tired, too. I really want to sleep. Oh, I'm getting dizzy." "Finn, Jax. Wow, God, what a demanding little demon. Finn, quick, use your cross to subdue her." "Benny, hey, weren't you just bouncing around a minute ago? I think you're faking it." "Yeah, you're definitely faking it." Zoe glared at them. "You two just had to open your mouths, didn't you?" Ethan smiled and glanced at Jax. Jax shrugged. "I'm off to find my own little demon. Don't worry about me. I'll get a taxi." "Actually, Goblin might be more fitting." Ethan chuckled, then looked at Benny. "Going to see Lily?" Benny thought for a moment, then leaned close to Ethan's ear and whispered, "The The chairman definitely prepared a lot of good food. I'll eat my fill and then bring some back for Lily. Ethan, have some self-respect. An hour later, Finn and Zoe were dropped off at Emerald Lake Estates. The moment they entered, Lily rushed to greet them. Mr. Finn, Dr. Russell. Huh? We're the boss and the others. They went to the manor for lunch. They'll probably be back this afternoon, Finn said, pointing at Zoe. Get a guest room ready for her. He then glanced toward the gun vault, a look of anticipation in his eyes. Oh, Lily nodded obediently and ran upstairs. Zoe pouted. I want to sleep in your room. I slept in your hospital room every night while taking care of you. That counts as living together. You can't be irresponsible. Finn looked away from the vault, shot her a glance, then pointed at the sofa. Sit here for now. Zoe's eyes widened. On the sofa? Finn nodded calmly. Sit. Zoe looked as if she'd won the lottery, grinning from ear to ear. Okay, well, then you should. Get to it. Finn found her baffling. He couldn't be bothered to reply and turned to walk toward the gun vault. Zoe, hey, where you going? Hey. When she caught up to him, he shut the door in her face and locked it. Opening the secret vault, Finn's eyes scanned the dazzling array of equipment. His hands were itching with anticipation. He picked up 2 pistols and expertly handled them. In an instant, the sickly pallor on his face was gone. The god of war had returned, and he was still the god of war. At the same time, Ethan's group arrived at the manor. As they entered the courtyard, they saw Dr. Holloway sitting leisurely under the gazebo, drinking tea. Isabel walked over, smiling. Dr. Holloway. Ah, he replied, then looked at Ethan before turning to Victor. Is this the young master? My, what a handsome and imposing young man. Ethan knew Dr. Holloway had been treating Isabel recently, so he was naturally grateful. He greeted him politely and offered a few words of thanks. Victor stared at Dr. Holloway. Are you done? Dr. Holloway nodded and smiled slowly. Just finished. Came for a cup of tea and a break. Victor, join us for lunch. You've worked hard these past few days. Oh, it's still early. Don't rest just yet. Give my daughter-in-law another session. Dr. Holloway looked exasperated and joked. You want a grandson? So badly you're working me like one. Victor, want me to give you a hug then? Get away from me. Isabel couldn't help but chuckle. After thanking the doctor, she looked at Ethan. I'm going for my session. You chat with Dad for a bit. Don't upset him. Ethan gently squeezed his wife's cheek. Okay. After the 2 left, Victor, Ethan, and Benny went into the living room. Son, you come at just the right time. The show starts tomorrow, Victor said as he poured tea for his son. Benny held his cup, staring blankly at Victor, waiting for his own pour. He even mumbled, Chairman, when do we eat? Victor took a breath, placed the teapot in front of Benny without a word, and continued speaking to Ethan. Your aunt is already caught in the trap. She's been frantically pouring money into it for the past 2 days. Jonathan Croft is on high alert, waiting for me to make the first move. AI, the master of the Red Tower, has already given him tacit permission to go to war with me. Hearing the Red Tower, Ethan's eyes darkened for a moment. He stood up, walked out of the living room, and called Sienna. Big brother Ethan, you finally remembered me. Did you listen to what I told you a while ago? Sienna's voice was light and cheerful. I did. I know you care about me, but I can't get away right now. We need a long-term plan. Ethan's tone was cool. Are you reluctant to give up the money? Or the power? Sienna hesitated, swallowing the words reluctant to give you up. After a moment of silence, she said, Neither. Ethan, find a way to leave as soon as possible. If you need money, I'll give it to you. I'll make sure you're set for life. A warmth spread through Sienna's heart, followed by a bitter smile. Ethan Vance, you did have feelings for me at some point, didn't you? Ethan took a breath. Don't misunderstand. Sienna, the colder and more dismissive you are, the more it shows you're hiding something. Ethan's face was expressionless. That's all. I'm hanging up. Wait, Sienna said. Look at you. Every time we talk about this, you run away. Honestly, hey, I never had a chance to ask you. How did you find out about the celestial axis? Ethan, luck, I guess. TCH, so mysterious. And now, how far have you gotten? Tell me. Ethan, we're close to finding their leader. Never mind. Don't get involved. Sienna was stubborn. What's that supposed to mean? You're looking down on me? Oof. I always say I want to help you, but I've never been able to. I feel bad about it. If you have any clues, tell me. The leader must be a big shot. He might have even been to the Red Tower. Ethan's eyes lit up. It was as if he'd just thought of something. After a moment of hesitation, he said, gravely, the leader of the celestial axis is missing a toe. As the words left his mouth, Sienna instinctively covered her mouth, her hand gripping the phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her eyes widened in shock. After a moment of shock, Sienna forced herself to calm down, her tone questioning. Missing a toe? Yeah, Ethan replied softly. He paused. Listen to me. Leave as soon as you can. Sienna forced a laugh. Don't worry. I'll be fine. Ethan said no more and hung up, returning to the living room. On the other end, Sienna's body went limp. She collapsed onto the sofa, her eyes filled with disbelief. A chaotic mix of emotions swirled within her, pressing down on her heart like a heavy stone. She finally understood why. Every time she mentioned the celestial axis, Ruff would clam up, even warning her never to ask again. She understood even more why he had told her. Anyone but Ethan Vance. Why? Sienna's eyes grew moist, her face ashen. Why is it like this? Oh God, is this my punishment? No one could possibly understand the storm of emotions she was experiencing. Back in the living room, Ethan was lost in thought. Victor, seeing his expression, likely guessed who his son had just called but said nothing. Instead, he smiled slowly and asked, Son, do you want to go see those 3 key members of the Celestial Axis? Ethan shook his head. No point. Did they say anything else useful? Victor sighed. I think that's all they know. Anyway, we're questioning them daily. Ethan knew that when it came to prying information from people, his father's methods were even more effective than his own, so he didn't think of taking over. Right now, his mind was solely focused on the mysterious leader. Victor took a sip of tea. Your money needs to be brought into the country. Benny suddenly looked at him, his eyes full of questions. Victor pursed his lips. It's not like I'm not paying interest. Benny's expression changed in a second. He grinned foolishly. Interest is good. Hiv. Victor rolled his eyes. Look at you. So pathetic. Ethan smiled and said to his father, How do we do it? Cross-border investment. The application was approved yesterday. I'll set up the transfer this afternoon. You just need to send the money. Okay. Ethan nodded, then his tone shifted. Let's hurry. I don't want to drag this out any longer. Everything is ready. Victor smiled. Your aunt's Apex construction is about to be mine. Heh. Ethan pondered. You put so much money into that development zone project. How are you going to get back? As long as Croft doesn't die, I'll get it back sooner or later. Ethan lit a cigarette. If Jonathan Croft loses this battle, he's guaranteed to die. Why don't I go kidnap him first? That would be so impolite, Victor said. Don't worry about him. I've already given the federal task force a heads up. Jonathan Croft will be fine. Ethan gave him a questioning look. Benny's eyes were clear, completely clueless as to how all these people his father mentioned were connected. Victor explained, Jonathan Croft is a shrewd man. A while back, he bought a trust fund for his ex-wife in the States, worth $2 billion. At the end of the day, it's just a way to leave himself an escape route. The task force has probably already found out about it. They won't let him out of their sight. The slightest movement, and they'll arrest him. Ethan was still a bit confused. Isn't buying a trust fund a standard move for the wealthy? Victor, the problem is I've already tipped off the task force. Standard or not, they will definitely investigate it secretly and keep a close watch on him. Besides, if I expose the Croft family's lifeline tomorrow, that will give them all the reason they need to make an arrest. What exactly is the lifeline? Ethan asked with a frown. Victor chuckled. You'll find out tomorrow. Benny shook his head, asking blankly, What's a trust fund? Ethan took a drag from his cigarette and explained, It's like if you transferred a sum of legal money to my name. I would pay interest to your designated beneficiary every year, but the principal has nothing to do with you. So, even if you're drowning in debt, that money can't be used to pay it off. It belongs to me forever, which means it's always yours. No one can touch it. Benny's eyes widened. Isn't that just being a deadbeat? Victor, exactly. As long as the money was earned legally, it's a legally protected way of being a deadbeat. What can you do? Benny, I'd beat the shit out of him. It was already past 2 in the afternoon by the time they finished lunch. Victor stared at the plastic bags filled with expensive delicacies sitting on the chair next to Benny and fell silent for a moment. You big dummy, are you stocking up at my place? Benny grinned foolishly, then scooped up a large spoonful of caviar and popped it into his mouth. Ethan patted his shoulder and smiled. You head back first. Your sister-in-law and I are going to the prison. Tonight, the boys and I will have a good drink to celebrate. Victor looked at his son. Aren't you going to see the old man? Ethan shook his head. When your battle starts tomorrow, I'm sure I'll get chewed out along with you. I'll see him then. Victor pondered for a moment. That works. After sending off his son and daughter-in-law, Victor was about to go with Dr. Holloway to see the Joker when a bodyguard led a simple-looking, sickly man into the courtyard. Seeing the man, Victor sent Dr. Holloway to go educate the Joker while he took the man upstairs to his study. The man was plainly dressed, about 40 years old, with a dark, weathered face and hands covered in calluses. He exuded a faint smell of fish, clearly an old fisherman. Upon entering the study, Victor asked, "It seems you've made up your mind?" The fisherman looked around at the luxurious decor, appearing very uneasy. He nodded slightly. "I only have a month to live. Being able to earn some money for my family, it's worth it. Actually, I'm really grateful to you. I was planning on doing this anyway. Those sons of bitches, they pushed me too far. They literally drove me to a dead end." Victor closed his eyes, his voice heavy. "Brother, you're a man of great righteousness. Don't worry. Well, I promised you. I will definitely do." At 3:30, Ethan and Isabel arrived at the prison. Arthur Thorne looked about the same as the last time they had visited. After the father and daughter exchanged a few words of concern, Ethan, just like last time, sent Isabel away and began to work on his father-in-law. By now, Arthur knew that Ethan had also taken Wendy, and his gaze was filled with resentment. "What do you want now?" Ethan smiled. "Came to see you." He paused. "And to ask you if you have any more." "I don't." Arthur waved his hands frantically, cutting him off. "I really don't. That was all I had, and you've cleaned me out. Why are you so stingy? It's not like I won't pay you back. I'm half your son, after all." No. You're not just Victor's little ancestor. You're my living ancestor. Can you just stop tormenting me? Go torment your own father." Ethan laughed and shook his head. "Just kidding. Wendy, I'll really pay you back for her. After all, you'll need to make a comeback when you get out." Arthur was skeptical, but didn't dare say another word. After leaving the prison, the couple went to Emerald Lake Estates. During their time in Boston, the team had been on edge every single day. It was time for them to relax. They drank and celebrated until past 10, then took a taxi home. Isabel was slightly tipsy, her pretty face flushed. After getting out of the car at the entrance to their residential complex, Ethan swept her up in a princess carry and walked into the complex, drawing curious stares from passersby. The streetlights in the community cast a warm, dim glow. A gentle evening breeze rustled, and the quiet night was constantly stirred by the chirping of cicadas. Isabel wrapped her arms around Ethan's neck, pressing her burning hot face shyly against his chest. "Are a lot of people looking?" she whispered. "Who cares about them?" Ethan, already a bit drunk himself, wore a brilliant smile, completely ignoring the onlookers. "I'm not carrying their wives." Isabel's skin wasn't as thick as his, but while she felt a bit of social death, she didn't ask him to put her down like she would have before. She lay quietly in his arms, her head tilted back, gazing at her man with deep affection, a smile unconsciously gracing her lips. The look of love in a person's eyes is truly unmistakable, impossible to hide. Ethan lowered his head and grinned roguishly. "Is your husband handsome?" Isabel pursed her lips and laughed for a moment before asking, "Are you tired?" "A little," Ethan said, feigning a deep breath. "Maybe my dear wife could reward me." Isabel tugged his ear. "Does this count?" "It does. Of course it does." Seeing the look of pure contentment on his face, Isabel felt an unexpected pang of sorrow. When it came to her, Ethan was always so easily satisfied. Looked at from another angle, wasn't it a form of being careful? Yet, after all they had been through, what had she ever given him? "Honey, was it exhausting? Falling in love with me?" Isabel's voice was wrapped in emotion, her eyes filled with guilt. Ethan leaned down and pecked her on the forehead. "Are you drunk?" "No. I just feel like I really, really owe you. What we've given to each other, it's completely unequal. You're my wife. If I don't dote on you, who will I dote on? If you say another word about owing me, I'll have to spank you." Isabel pinched Ethan's cheek and pouted. "You're terrible." She then gently bit her lower lip, her expression uncharacteristically shy and alluring. She stared at Ethan without blinking, as if she couldn't bear to look away. A strange, indescribable charm flickered in her eyes, and her cheeks grew even hotter. When they got home, Isabel went to the bathroom to remove her makeup and wash up. Ethan made 2 glasses of honey water and brought them to her bedroom. He changed into his pajamas, slipped under the covers, and turned on the projector to pick a horror movie. A long while later, Isabel finished and returned to the bedroom. Ethan grinned mischievously. "Wifey, I'm so tired I don't want to go out. Just change into your pajamas. I promise I won't peek." Isabel bit her lip and stared at him for a moment before reaching up and turning off the lights. Ethan covered his eyes with one hand while using the other to turn the projector's brightness to the maximum. Isabel couldn't help but laugh, muttering, "Pervert," before getting into bed. Ethan glanced at the wardrobe and said with feigned seriousness, "Go on, wifey, change." "I'm really not looking." Isabel didn't speak, her face turning an even deeper shade of red. She looked down in silence for a moment, then leaned over, wrapped her arms around Ethan, and kissed him deeply. Ethan's mind went blank for a second, then filled with joy. He responded with equal passion, but due to his factory settings, his hands started to wander. Just as he was about to succeed, Isabel caught his wrist, her lips never leaving his. Ethan was forced to continue the kiss. After a long while, he pulled away, breathing heavily. He grinned. Wifey, if we keep kissing, I'm going to explode. Their faces were pressed together. Isabel's breathing was even more ragged than his, her breath warm and fragrant. Her cheeks were like red-hot iron, her eyes full of desire. This shy, seductive look was utterly intoxicating. Ethan, who considered himself to have great self-control, was on the verge of losing it. If Isabel kissed him one more time, he would probably cross the line. But because of her psychological issues, he had to force himself to hold back. He smiled. Let's sleep, wifey. I'm really so tired. As the words left his mouth, Isabel suddenly spoke. Honey, Dr. Holloway said my condition. It's basically not an issue anymore. I want to try. Ethan froze completely, unable to react. Isabel sat up and one by one unbuttoned her shirt. The bedroom lights were off, but under the glow of the projector, her stunning figure was silhouetted in a deeply alluring outline. By the time Ethan came to his senses, all he saw was his wife slipping off her shirt, her hands gathering her long, silky hair and tossing it behind her. Not even God himself could have resisted this. Wifey, if you're going to say that, then I'm not tired anymore. Ethan was like a starving wolf. He flipped over, pinning Isabel beneath him. His hands, which could disassemble a gun in the blink of an eye, were just as quick with buttons. The factory settings were finally put to good use. Isabel barely saw how he had peeled her. After another passionate kiss, she wrapped her arms tightly around his waist and said shyly, Honey, be gentle. The next day, Apex Construction Headquarters. Cassandra Vance had arrived at the company early in the morning to hold an emergency meeting. The first item on the agenda was to go over the details of the development zone project with the general manager of a subsidiary. The second was to use the board of directors to oust another director who had been lining his own pockets. Since she had started her drastic reforms, Cassandra had already dismissed 3 directors. Although all 3 were indeed at fault, her merciless, iron-fisted approach had made the other board members deeply uneasy. After the meeting, Cassandra returned to her office. Sean Bellamy was standing by the coffee machine. Seeing her enter, he quickly started grinding coffee beans. Chairwoman, is the meeting over? Cassandra looked at him, her brow relaxing slightly. Why'd you go to so much trouble? You could just have an assistant make it for me. Sean smiled. I bought some new coffee beans. This first cup has to be ground by me for you. Just a moment, it's almost ready. Cassandra smiled and shook her head, walking to her desk. Old Joe is out. That old bastard. He was with me for 20 years and was taking kickbacks with outsiders the whole time. Sean, I really owe you. Sean didn't take the credit. It's my duty. You valued me enough to make me the CEO of this corporation. I should do everything in my power to repay your faith in me. In fact, the policy of securing the interior before fighting outsiders had been Sean's proposal, and he was the one who had uncovered the evidence of the 3 directors' collusion. Cassandra wore an expression of deep gratification. She sat in her chair, staring at Sean, her gaze unusually soft. After a moment, she remembered something. Oh, right, I almost forgot. The TV station is coming for an interview later. You should prepare for it. Sean was taken aback. An interview? Me? Cassandra smiled. Yes. You're the youngest and most accomplished person in the company, and you're handsome too. So, I'm giving this opportunity to you. You need to take it seriously. Use this chance to promote the company. Sean didn't hesitate. Don't worry, Chairwoman. I won't let you down. Ethan, in a rare move, slept in. When he opened his eyes, it was already 10 in the morning. Isabel had woken up a bit earlier. She was resting on his arm, her face flushed, looking a little tired. Her gaze was as gentle as water, fixed on him. Wifey, why are you up so early? A smile unconsciously played on Ethan's lips as he pulled her closer. What are you looking at? Isabel met his gaze. Remembering their night of passion, she blushed and fell silent, too shy to speak. Ethan's eyes drifted downward to the hickeys on her chest, his smile widening. Isabel pulled the blanket up, covering herself. What are you looking at? Ethan grinned mischievously. I'm looking at a top-tier MILF. You? Isabel's face burned. She reached up, tweaked his ear, and then bit him on the neck. Ethan took the opportunity to flip over, his factory settings now second nature. Wifey, how about another reward? Isabel suddenly frowned, her eyes full of resistance. Are you a donkey? We were at it all night, and you still. Ethan, I've been holding back for so long. Can't I enjoy myself a little? Isabel pouted, her eyes full of playful resentment. She lightly slapped his chest and said shyly, "Cover up. Don't look. Where you putting your hands? You're terrible." At the same time, at Apex Construction headquarters, Sean Bellamy was at his most charming during a live media interview. As someone who made his living with his words, he handled the reporters' many questions with ease, speaking eloquently and confidently. Reporter, in your eyes, what kind of person is Chairwoman Cassandra Vance? Sean looked at the portrait of Cassandra on the wall, his eyes full of warmth. She is a powerhouse who embodies both resilience and wisdom. I believe every employee in this company has had the same thought about her, a woman who is no less than any man. It's an undisputed fact. Our company has faced many setbacks and difficulties along the way, and it's because of the chairwoman's extraordinary intelligence that she has led us through every crisis. To be honest, I used to dream that in my lifetime, I could be by the side of a top-tier entrepreneur. Even if I did nothing, just watching her hold meetings, listening to what she said every day, that would be a great happiness. So, I have to thank Chairwoman Vance for making my dream come true. To be able to serve at Apex is, without exaggeration, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. In this life, following the right person is more important than anything else. The reporter smiled and nodded, then continued. As the CEO, do you often feel a lot of pressure? Sean, the reason our company is where it is today is not just because we have an exceptional leader, but also because of a key factor, unity. As the CEO of a publicly traded company with such strong fundamentals, a promising future, and a workforce united in purpose, what pressure could there be? Two directors passing by overheard this, exchanged a glance, and shook their heads with a smile. Reporter, are you satisfied with your salary? Roughly how much do you make a month? This was a tricky question. A misstep could either offend the reporter and earn him a reputation for being arrogant, or it could leak company secrets. In the corporate world, the biggest taboo was bragging about one's salary. Faced with this sudden, sensitive question, Sean was calm and collected, replying almost instantly. To be honest, I never look at my pay stub. Reporter, oh, really? Sean, there's no need for me to lie about that. In fact, when I first came to Apex, the first time I met the chairwoman, I told her money isn't important. What's important is giving me an office close to hers. I wanted to report to her at any time, to learn from her at any time. Some things can't be bought with money. When you're with capable people, you have to put income aside. Learning how to be a person, how to do things, that's what's most important. Not everyone gets an opportunity like this. The reporter's smile was a bit awkward. After a pause, he asked, I see that your company has a lot of young talent. I chatted with some of them earlier and found that Gen Z makes up almost half, and some are recent college graduates. As CEO, do you have any valuable advice for these young people? Sean replied without hesitation. I told them when they joined the company that all the knowledge they learned in college is severely disconnected from real-world practice, because the things that make it into textbooks are all past experiences. So, no matter what university you graduate from, you're just a blank piece of paper. You know nothing, and when you know nothing, you'll definitely make mistakes at work. But the company will pay for your mistakes. And there are people here to teach you how to be a person and how to do your job, to add color to your blank paper. And that's not all. Someone even pays you. Where else in the world can you find such a good deal? As he said this, Sean's expression was that of a savior. The reporter was silent for a moment. Sean, so I don't have any valuable advice. I just want to tell young people that the first and most important thing when entering the workforce is to be grateful. With a grateful heart, you could go far. Nearing noon, Cassandra had finished her business with the visitors from the Croft family. Just as she saw them off, she received a call from the manager of her overseas project. Cassandra glanced at the time. It was around midnight over there. Her heart tightened. A call in the middle of the night could never be good news. Hello, what's wrong? Chairwoman, it's terrible. There's been an incident at the project. Cassandra's brow furrowed. She waited. The factory is on fire. It burned. It all burned down. Cassandra's eyes widened, and she screamed, Useless. Useless. How could you let this happen? They're still fighting the fire now. The specific cause is not clear yet. I think this must have been arson. Cassandra was about to faint with rage. She gritted her teeth. What's the extent of the damage? It's gone. It's all gone. All our hard work, up in flames. Besides our own losses, the government will fine us to death. And we'll be facing astronomical compensation claims. Cassandra furiously hung up the phone and roared, Victor Vance. She didn't even have to think. It was undoubtedly her dear brother, giving her a taste of her own medicine. The sound of Cassandra Vance's roar brought Sean Bellamy, scurrying from the adjacent CEO's office. Seeing her face contorted in a mask of fury, he asked nervously, "Ma'am, what's wrong? Is there a problem with the project?" Cassandra's breathing was heavy, her teeth clenched. Victor Vance, that animal. He actually dared to sabotage the overseas project. My father will never let him get away with this. I truly didn't think he'd sink this low. Not when he's already a spent force. What's the point of screwing me over like this? Does he have a death wish? Father will absolutely destroy him. Absolutely. Sean was stunned. After a moment, he frowned and asked, "Are the losses serious?" Cassandra shut her eyes. "Gone. It's all gone. A fire. It burned everything to the ground." Sean's expression turned grim. "Are you certain it was Victor? Who else could it be?" "Huh? You tell me, who else?" "The thing is," Sean said, "even if Mr. Vance suspects it was him, without any proof, he won't do anything to him. I'm going to the manor right now and have Father stand up for me." Cassandra declared, "That project may have been my responsibility, but at the end of the day, it belongs to the Vance family. That dog Victor is playing with fire. This time, I doubt Father will need proof. At the very least, he'll kick him out of the family for good." Just then, Mr. Zhu, the second most powerful director at Apex Consolidated, rushed into the office. "Ms. Vance, the overseas project. I see you've already heard." Cassandra was grabbing her purse. "You're just in time. I'm heading back to the manor. You coordinate with the overseas team for now." Mr. Zhu's brow was deeply furrowed. "You suspect Victor, and you're going back to the manor to report him?" "I agree. There's an 80% chance Victor is behind this. But Ms. Vance, don't you find this a little strange?" Cassandra stared at him. "What do you mean?" "Victor has always been a man who thinks 10 steps ahead," Mr. Zhu explained. "For him to make a move like this, he must have another objective." "What objective?" "Huh? What could he possibly be after in his current state?" Mr. Zhu couldn't articulate it, but he was convinced Victor was planning something big. "Ms. Vance, please calm down. Let's analyze this rationally, shall we?" Hearing this, Cassandra, who had been blinded by rage, managed to compose herself slightly, a thoughtful look in her eyes. Sean Bellamy pursed his lips. "In my opinion, Victor is just lashing out. After all, we took his project, his stock price plummeted, and his capital is all tied up. He's finished, with no chance of a comeback. This is probably just petty revenge." Mr. Zhu shot Sean a cold glare. It was clear he detested the man, the company's king-size suck-up. "Don't forget, we have a lot of our own capital tied up with the Croft family." Sean scoffed. "The company has enough liquidity to handle the overseas incident. Besides, the factory is insured. Investigating the cause of the fire and processing a claim of that magnitude will take time." Mr. Zhu countered. "If something else goes wrong with the company in the next few days, what are we going to use to defend ourselves?" Sean waved a dismissive hand. "Our collaboration with the Crofts is completely under our control. What could possibly go wrong?" As he spoke, Cassandra's assistant knocked and rushed into the office, holding a tablet. "Ma'am, it's bad. Our stock price. It's plummeting." "What?" Cassandra's mouth fell open in disbelief. The assistant handed her the tablet, instinctively glancing at Sean. You should see for yourself." On the screen was the video of Sean's interview from that morning. The comments were scrolling so fast they obscured his face. "The king of all lickspittles. Take my spit. So your advice for young people is to kneel while they work? How does an honest day's wage become a gift from the capitalists in your mouth? Isn't this guy's dad that same jackass expert on TV last month who said young people shouldn't want a salary, but should pay their company for the privilege of working?" Without exception, the comments were a torrent of abuse aimed at Sean. "It's because of this video," the assistant whispered. "That's why the stock is tanking." Sean was utterly shocked, looking helplessly at Cassandra. Mr. Zhu's expression was glacial as he glared at Sean. "Look what you've done," he snarled. Sean ignored him, turning to the increasingly grim-faced Cassandra. "Ma'am, I honestly didn't think this would happen. Whether you thought it would or not, you're still responsible." Mr. Zhu fumed. "Is the company supposed to foot the bill for this massive loss, too?" You." Cassandra cut him off. "Shut up. What's the point of fighting amongst ourselves? Sean's interview was fine. It's just those wage-slave drones being too sensitive." Mr. Zhu looked like he was about to explode. "Ms. Vance, if Sean doesn't answer for this, I'm afraid the other executives won't stand for it. And I still think this is connected to Vic. Enough. Will you give a rest?" Cassandra shot Mr. Zhu a look. "Go and do your job." Mr. Zhu stared at Cassandra, his eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions. He took a deep breath, swallowed the words on the tip of his tongue, and turned to leave. As he walked away, he muttered, "It's over." Apex consolidated. It's over. Cassandra's mind was a chaotic mess, and she couldn't be bothered with him. She looked at her assistant. "Have PR handle this immediately. Stop the bleeding. They're already working on a plan." The instigator, Sean Bellamy, was terrified. "Ma'am, I really didn't expect this. Please, you should punish me. Otherwise, the other executives will be furious." Cassandra slowly shook her head. "It's not your fault." Just then, her phone rang. It was Victor. Cassandra's face went ashen. She answered and immediately launched into a tirade. "You dog. You play a good game, don't you? You have a death wish, is that it? Are you at the manor? Huh? Tell me, are you at the manor?" Victor chuckled. "My dear sister, anger is bad for your health. You should cool down a bit." "Victor, you're a dead man. Do you know what you're doing? I will make you pay. If you have any guts, you will wait for me at the manor." Fair enough. But I don't think you'll have time to come back. You see, I didn't just prepare a gift for you. I also sent a big one to your business partner, much more luxurious than yours. In the end, you are my dear sister. A word of advice. While you're still alive, you should probably get out of the country." With that, Victor hung up. Cassandra's face was grave, her eyes full of suspicion. She immediately called Jonathan Croft. She tried twice, but both calls went unanswered. As she was wondering what was going on, her assistant's expression turned to one of utter shock. He frantically turned the tablet towards her. "Ma'am, look." On the screen was a live news broadcast. Atop an unfinished 4-story building, the fisherman who had met with Victor the day before was standing on the edge of the roof, his voice choked with tears as he accused Croft Consolidated. 5 years, and this building is only 4 stories high. Croft Consolidated lied to me, told me this was prime real estate in a good school district. I scraped together every penny I had, even borrowed money, just to make the down payment. And now, forget about my kids' education. My family doesn't even have a place to live. And I still have to make a mortgage payment of over $5,000 every month. I just wanted my son to go to school in the city, to have a better education, so he wouldn't end up a good-for-nothing like me. Why? Why did you have to lie to me? I'm just a fisherman. I don't understand your games, but I understand one thing. If a customer orders fish for the next day and I can't deliver, I have to give back his deposit, and I have to apologize for wasting his time. But you're just bandits, robbing honest people in broad daylight." Below, a crowd of onlookers had gathered, all holding up their phones to record. It didn't take long for the incident to start trending on local social media. Officers from the local precinct were the first on the scene, with firefighters arriving moments later. But before the fire crew could make a move, the fisherman cried out hysterically, "Don't move. All of you back off. If anyone comes near me, I'll jump right now." Seeing how agitated he was, the officers quickly moved the onlookers to a safe distance. The precinct captain sent one officer to try and talk the man down, while he urgently discussed a rescue plan with the fire chief. A moment later, the captain was on a megaphone, trying to reason with the fisherman to draw his attention, while 2 young firefighters slipped around to the back of the derelict building and began to quietly climb up. The fisherman was sobbing. "I've sold fish my whole life, working from dawn till dusk at a dirty, exhausting job. And for what? Wasn't it just so my wife and kids could have a place to live? I'd work myself to death, and it wouldn't matter. I'd spend the rest of my life paying off this house, and I'd do it gladly. But where's the house? Huh? You tell me, where's my house? And who the hell am I paying this mortgage to every month? You kept telling me the project had some funding issues, to just wait. But you had money for that multi-billion-dollar development on the other side of town, didn't you?" I looked it up online. Jonathan Croft's mansion in Port Sterling alone is worth over $400 million, and he has a dozen more luxury homes overseas, each one worth tens of millions. He could sell a few of those and have enough to finish our homes, couldn't he? And the Red Tower. Jonathan Croft's Red Tower. What goes on in that building? You think the authorities really don't know? Even a little guy like me knows how dirty they are. At the mention of the Red Tower, the crowd erupted in a flurry of speculation. A cold sweat broke out on the captain's back. At the same time, the police brought the fisherman's wife and child to the scene. They were crying, begging him to come down. But the fisherman seemed not to see them, continuing his heart-wrenching tirade. "I want to formally report Jonathan Croft. He's a gangster. I reported him a while back, and he had me kidnapped and taken to the Red Tower. He used violence to threaten me, told me to stop causing trouble for Croft Consolidated. Heh, I'm just a fisherman. I'm standing here today because they've truly pushed me to the end of my rope." As he finished speaking, The fisherman glanced behind him and happened to spot the two firefighters who had circled around. Stay back. The fisherman grew even more agitated, pointing at them and taking a step back. Half of his foot was now hanging over the edge. The crowd below held its breath, a dead silence falling over them. Calm down. I sympathize with your situation, and I understand how you feel right now. But you have to trust me. There's a way to solve this, okay? One of the firefighters pleaded. No matter what, you have to think about your wife and son. If you jump from here, do you have any idea what kind of trauma that will leave your child with? He'll live with that shadow for the rest of his life. Hearing this, the fisherman's eyes glazed over. The sound of his family's cries from below seemed to make him waver. Brother, listen to me. Let's go down first, all right? This has already caused a huge stir. Someone will help you solve this, the firefighter said. Seeing no rebuttal, he tried to inch forward. Think about your son, okay? Just then, a middle-aged man in the crowd below, eating a kebab, shouted up, his voice thick with morbid curiosity. So are you going to jump or not? Don't just stand there yelling. You scared? If you're such a coward, why pretend to be a martyr? A police officer quickly grabbed the man and pulled him aside, reprimanding him sharply. But the man was a real piece of work. What law did I break? What right do you have to tell me to leave? Huh? Can't you tell I was using reverse psychology to talk him down? Fine, I won't say anything. Don't touch me, or I'll file a complaint. Up on the roof, when the fisherman heard the word martyr, he slowly closed his eyes, his expression turning one of final resolve. He pointed at the approaching firefighter, his voice cold and empty. Don't move. I'll tell you a story. The firefighter tensed up. Go on. But could you take one step this way first? It's too dangerous. The fisherman didn't budge. 5 years ago, I went to the pier to buy some stock. I ordered $1,000 worth of fish. They asked if I wanted to pay in installments or all at once. I didn't have enough cash, so I chose installments. They told me to pay 30% up front and the rest over 30 years. I only had $200 some, so I borrowed a bit from a friend to make the payment. I signed on the dotted line. I thought I'd get my fish the next day, but then they told me I had to wait. They had to use my money to build a fishing boat. Once the boat was built, they'd go out to sea, and only after they caught the fish could they deliver it to me. But to this day, 5 years later, I still haven't gotten my fish. They told me the seas have been too rough, the boat can't go out, so they can't deliver it anytime soon. I asked for a refund, but they said since I signed the papers, that batch of fish was already mine. They told me to just wait patiently, that a refund was impossible. And on top of that, I still have to pay them for the boat every single month. What kind of logic is that? And they even had the nerve to call me the bad guy, for ruining their reputation, for slandering them. The firefighter bit his lip. They're the bad guys. You come down with me. We'll tell the proper authorities everything, who they all are. I want to know who they are, too, the fisherman screamed. He slowly tilted his head back, looked at the sky, and gave a bitter laugh. God damn you to hell. The firefighter's heart sank. He lunged forward, but he was a step too late. Any matter involving a loss of life becomes complicated, but in the eyes of the butchers, the meat on the block could never make much of a splash. Cassandra's brow was furrowed. She handed the tablet back to her assistant and tried calling Jonathan Croft again. Still no answer. Logically, a trivial incident like this shouldn't affect Croft himself. It made no sense for him to go off the grid. Sean said, thoughtfully, that jumper said a lot, but it won't really affect the Crofts. The strange thing is, why did he mention the Red Tower? It feels deliberate. Do you think Victor arranged it? Cassandra mulled it over. It must be him, but I don't understand what he hopes to achieve with this. The jumper's claims about the Red Tower are completely unsubstantiated. What good can it do? Besides, why would Jonathan Croft kidnap him and take him there? It would be far easier to just make his entire family disappear. That's not a difficult thing for them. He wants the authorities to investigate the Red Tower, Sean deduced. The federal task force is still in Port Sterling. But how can they investigate something fabricated out of thin air? Cassandra couldn't figure it out, but a sense of unease lingered. When Victor had called her earlier, his tone, so full of confidence, was not that of a man who had lost everything. He sounded more like a conquering general returning to court. After a moment's thought, Cassandra called the general manager of Apex Construction, a subsidiary of her company. Are you at the project site right now? I am, the manager replied, in a meeting with a few of the principals. Ma'am, is there something you need? Is everything normal with the project? Perfectly normal. Has the client shown any unusual behavior? Not at all. Their lead just invited me to go fishing with him at noon. Ma'am, did you see the news about the jumper? It's a small matter. It won't affect the development project. Cassandra hung up and tried Jonathan Croft again. Still no answer. What is that old bastard playing at? She muttered, then turned to Sean. Get the car. We're going to Croft Consolidated. The two of them stormed out of the office. In the lobby, they ran into Mr. Zhu. He opened his mouth to say something, but seeing Cassandra ignore him completely while deep in conversation with Sean, he clamped his mouth shut, not wanting to make a fool of himself. As he watched them get into the car and drive away, Mr. Zhu let out a long sigh and muttered to himself, such a good company, being driven to ruin by this pretty boy sycophant. Oh, Cassandra, how can you be so blind? Just then, a Porsche 911 pulled up beside him. The driver's side window rolled down, revealing the beautiful face of Victor's secretary. Mr. Zhu, fancy seeing you here. Mr. Zhu glanced at her, said nothing, and turned to walk away. My boss asked me to pass on a message, the secretary said. A wise bird chooses its branch. He can save his breath, Mr. Zhu snapped. Apex Consolidated is my life's work. I will never betray Cassandra. You got the wrong idea. The secretary was unruffled. Yes, Apex is your life's work. But to Apex? Heh, give me a moment of your time. Let's talk. Back at Isabel's villa, Ethan Vance lazily got out of bed, sitting on the edge and rubbing his lower back before finally emerging from the bedroom. Isabel, wearing one of his button-down shirts, was sitting on the sofa, checking emails from her company. Hearing her husband emerge, the beautiful woman glanced over, her cheeks instantly flushing. She quickly turned back to her laptop, feigning nonchalance as she replied to an email. Honey, Ethan's eyes roamed freely over Isabel's form, a roguish grin on his face. Does my shirt fit you well? The chest seems a little tight. Isabel shot him a warning glare. Don't be a pig. Ethan's grin widened as he strolled over. Ate me alive, and now you won't take responsibility? Be careful, or I'll go crying to my father-in-law. Isabel was speechless. Have you no shame? I'm just telling the truth. I was going to remain a chaste man for you, but you were the one who insisted on giving it a try. Look at you, you've left my back aching even now. Ethan, Isabel was both mortified and annoyed. Are you ever going to stop? How can you be so shameless? Ethan decided not to push his luck. He obediently sat down next to his wife, charming her with a playful smile. A few minutes later, Benny called. Boss, I've got Leo Bishop. We're on our way back. Ethan grunted in acknowledgement, then hung up. He turned to Isabel. Honey, get changed, do your makeup. We're going to Emerald Lake Estates. Isabel looked embarrassed, pointing to the hickeys on her neck. How am I supposed to go out looking like this? Wear a scarf. Ethan chuckled. Isabel rolled her eyes and shook her head. Forget it. I'm a little tired. After I finish these emails, I want to go back to sleep. Ethan didn't push her. All right, you be good and wait for me here. Isabel nodded, then paused, pointing at a love bite on Ethan's own neck. Aren't you going to do something about that? I'm shameless, Ethan said. It doesn't matter. Isabel pinched his ear, her face flushing. When you come back, buy some. Medicine. Ethan thought for a moment, then understood. No need. If it happens, it happens. I can afford to raise it. No, Isabel said firmly. You smoke so much. We need a plan for at least 3 months before we even think about trying. Unable to win the argument, Ethan agreed. After a bit more flirting with his wife, he washed up and left. Meanwhile, Cassandra and Sean's trip had been a bust. Next, they went to the Croft family mansion, but the security at the gate told her that Mr. Croft had left early that morning and hadn't returned. Cassandra was skeptical. She sent Sean to the Red Tower to see if Croft was there, while she waited outside the mansion. No matter what, she had to see Jonathan Croft and tell him about the gift Victor had sent them. Clearly, for all her bluster, the old widow was still deeply wary of her younger brother. But she was destined to wait in vain, because at that very moment, Jonathan Croft was at the federal building. At 7:30 that morning, on his way to the Croft Consolidated headquarters, he had been secretly taken into custody by the federal task force. Even his driver and bodyguard were taken. The operation was so covert that very few people, even within the federal system, knew about it. Croft wasn't being held in an interrogation room, but in Director Quentin Irons' office, on a floor with heavy security. The people bringing him water and food were all from Irons' own team, brought in from the Capitol. Such caution was necessary because Jonathan Croft was implicated in a matter of staggering importance, an offense so great that dying 100 times over could not atone for it. The chain of events had been set in motion at 6 o'clock that morning, when Victor Vance had personally submitted a report to Director Irons. And that report, detailing the crimes of Croft Consolidated, was the real trigger for the earthquake that was about to rock Port Sterling to its foundations. Half an hour later, Ethan arrived at his villa in Emerald Lake Estates. Lily was in the yard watering the flowers. She quickly hurried over, a bright smile on her face. Mr. Ethan. Ethan smiled and nodded. I just corrected you yesterday. You're supposed to call me boss. Why do you keep forgetting? Lily, with her perpetually shy demeanor, stared at Ethan for a moment. Then her smile vanished. Sir, your neck. What happened? It looks like someone grabbed you. Ethan didn't explain. In the future, Benny will be grabbing you too, he said seriously. Heh. Anyway, I'm going inside to see Leo. Lily gave a dazed nod, muttering to herself. Why would Benny grab me in the future? I haven't even shot him with the blank cartridges yet. The moment Leo Bishop saw Ethan, he was ecstatic. Boss, it's been a month. I missed you like crazy, old Leo has. Huh, but for all his excitement, he was confined to a wheelchair. Ethan clapped him on the shoulder, a pained smile on his face. Leo, you've suffered. He then turned to Dylan and nodded with a smile. Dylan had previously punched Ethan in a fit of rage and had been thoroughly scolded by Leo for it. He understood that on this path, blood was part of the job. His resentment towards Ethan had faded. He nodded back. Boss, long time no see. A while back, he had called Ethan to tell him the police were watching Leo, constantly asking about the cause of his injuries. They suspected a connection between the Celestial Axis shootout and the East Side Syndicate, but without proof, and with a hospital report stating it was a car accident, the police couldn't do much but watch from the shadows. Yesterday, as soon as Ethan landed, he'd called Dylan. Learning that plainclothes officers were still at the hospital, he hadn't dared to visit. The original plan was to wait until Leo was fully recovered and discharged, but when Leo heard Ethan was back, he insisted on leaving immediately. So here he was before the custom prosthetic Ethan had ordered for him could even be fitted. Benny, who had been waiting in the underground garage of Leo's building, had picked him up and brought him here. How's the wound healing? Ethan asked, looking at Leo's stump. Benny couldn't bear to look at it. He averted his gaze, only to notice the hickey on Ethan's neck. He blinked, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. Leo, ever the big talker, slapped his residual limb a few times. It's fine, it's fine. It's in the swelling reduction and shaping phase now. The doctor said I can get the prosthetic fitted in about 3 weeks. Hey, I found out from the doctor. That imported leg you bought me costs $120,000. TSK, that's too much. The old cripple in my village had a blacksmith make him one, and he used it his whole life, didn't he? Boss, I know you're rich, and old Leo isn't short on cash now either, but we have to spend it wisely. No need to waste money on things like this. Ethan smiled. You get what you pay for. But no matter how expensive it is, it can't repay my debt to you. Getting all formal on me, are you? Leo said, aggrieved. I said it from the start. My life, Leo Bishop's life, belongs to you. What's losing a leg compared to that? Ethan pursed his lips. For all his literary knowledge, he couldn't find the words to describe his feelings. This was how it was between men. Many things were left unsaid, understood only in the heart. Jax leaned against the liquor cabinet, arms crossed, watching Ethan and Leo. He glanced over at Finn, who stood not far away, a smile in his eyes. Finn met his gaze, then walked over to the panther statue. From behind it, he took out 6 thick, long incense sticks and lit them one by one. Leo, seeing the guilt on Ethan's face, decided to change the subject. Boss, we've taken out the Celestial Axis's main nest. What's the plan for the East Side Syndicate now? Give us a direction. Ethan shook his head. You're the man in charge. You call the shots. Leo pointed at himself. Me? Yes. From now on, there's no boss. In the East Side Syndicate, you, Leo Bishop, are number 1. But let me give you a piece of advice. It's best not to get into fights like before. You've made enough money. Focus on running a few good nightclubs. It's time for the syndicate to lay low. And remember, no matter what, stay away from drugs. Leo could tell Ethan was handing the syndicate over to him completely. A flicker of secret joy crossed his face as he nodded repeatedly. Be, Mr. Vance, don't you worry. Under your guidance, I've long sworn off gambling and drugs. As long as I'm around, the East Side Syndicate will never touch those 2 things. Good. Ethan squeezed Leo's hand. Just then, Benny scratched his head and inexplicably reached out to brush Ethan's neck. Ethan froze. Benny looked puzzled. Boss, you've got something on your neck. I can't wipe it off. Wait, no. It looks like someone grabbed you. Holy crap. Did your wife hit you? Ethan was speechless. Jack stifled a laugh and called out, Boss. He then tilted his head towards the panther statue. Ethan shot Benny a glare, muttering, You two really deserve each other. He took the wheelchair from Dylan and pushed Leo over to the statue. Finn divided the lit incense into 2 bundles and handed them to each of them. Looking at the imposing bronze panther and the incense in his hand, Leo was incredulous. He stammered, Boss, this. Ethan smiled faintly. Leo, from now on, as long as I, Ethan Vance, have a bite to eat, you will never go hungry. And I'm not some boss anymore. I'm your brother. But even though you're older, your rank will have to be after Jack's. Tears welled up in Leo's eyes. He had dreamed of this day countless times. He knew Ethan's crew consisted of 5 brothers, but he had never seen the second-in-command, Milo. Still, the Leo of today was no longer as clueless as before. He knew not to ask. Ethan would tell him what he needed to know. It was better not to be curious about the rest. Boss, from now on, I'm number 6. My life, Leo Bishop's life, is yours forever. Hearing the words number 6, the expressions on Ethan's crew turned strange for a moment. Vinny, who was never good at hiding his emotions, even frowned. Leo, ever observant, since he had said something wrong and didn't dare speak again. Ethan didn't explain. He and Leo paid their respects to the panther statue, then placed their incense in the burner. Only then did he turn to Leo and smile. Let's make it number 7. Number 6 sounds unlucky. Leo was thrilled. Okay, whatever you say, boss. Vinny Finn Jax, from now on, you'll have to look out for your little brother. Number 7. Ha ha. As he was laughing, he saw Finn give him a stiff, faint smile. Leo froze, pointing at Finn as if he'd seen a ghost, too shocked to speak. You. The ghost of a smile on Finn's face vanished as quickly as it had appeared. He instinctively clutched the cross on his chest and muttered, "I Sheba." It seemed that smiling really didn't suit him. Inside Director Quentin Irons' temporary office at the federal building, Jonathan Croft had been cooperative all morning, answering nearly all of Mr. Evans's questions. Since he was only there to assist with an investigation, he hadn't been handcuffed, though his phone, watch, belt, and keys had been confiscated. At the moment, he was unhurriedly eating the lunch provided by the task force. Let's take a break. I need to get some lunch myself. We'll continue after I'm done, Mr. Evans said, turning to leave. Hey, wait a minute. Croft called out, a sycophantic smile on his face. Sir, could I possibly make a phone call? I have some very important business at my company that needs my attention. Mr. Evans took a breath and said calmly, Don't be anxious. Eat first. Croft's expression didn't change. Of course. Sir, please be quick. My business dealings can't afford to be delayed. Though he said this, a chill was spreading through his heart. The task force had bypassed every other agency to bring him directly to the federal building, and they weren't letting local authorities interfere. While the questions so far had been trivial and they hadn't shown him any evidence, they wouldn't let him make a phone call. How could that not fill him with dread? This was the kind of treatment reserved for high-level corrupt officials on the verge of being taken down. He knew the task force was waiting. He just didn't know what they were waiting for. Mr. Evans walked slowly down the hall, glancing at the offices on either side. In every one, a member of his team was conducting an interrogation. And the people being questioned were, without exception, the presidents of major banks, all of whom had been secretly brought in to assist with an investigation on their way to work, just like Croft. Reaching the middle of the corridor, Mr. Evans took 2 lunchboxes from a colleague, knocked lightly on a door, and entered. Director Irons, you should eat something. Quentin Irons sat at his desk, which was covered in folders. Seeing Mr. Evans with the food, he took off his reading glasses, stretched, and walked over to the sofa. How far have we gotten? Mr. Evans opened a container, broke apart a pair of disposable chopsticks, and handed them to Irons. He appears cooperative, but he's really just dodging the important questions, playing dumb. Irons took out his phone, opened a video on a social media platform, and showed it to Evans. Take a look at this first. With that, he started eating ravenously. Though it was just a simple dish of pepper steak over rice, the special envoy from D.C., who had been too busy to even eat breakfast, made it look like a gourmet feast. The video Mr. Evans was watching was the full recording of the fisherman's tearful accusation against Croft Consolidated and his subsequent suicide. The view count wasn't displayed, but the comments had already surpassed 100,000. After watching, Mr. Evans slowly closed his eyes. Having been by Irons' side for over a decade, he was able to quickly assess the situation after a moment of sympathy for the fisherman. Director, he said thoughtfully, this was arranged by Victor Vance, wasn't it? Irons swallowed a mouthful of food. Who else could it be, he said coolly. The local police just reported to me. The man was a fisherman, late-stage cancer. This morning, on his way to school, his son saved a little girl who was about to be hit by a car. The girl's father, a businessman, gave him $50,000 on the spot, adopted him as his godson, and promised to fund his education all the way through college. He's treating us like 3-year-olds. He's not even trying to make the act convincing. Mr. Evans considered this. He may not be trying hard, but there's no way to disprove this story. By orchestrating this, Victor at most tarnishes Croft Consolidated's reputation for a few days. I think his real target is the Red Tower. In this age of social media, the mainstream outlets might be hesitant to touch certain topics, but the millions of independent creators have no such qualms. They'll even embellish and sensationalize things for clicks, just to stir the pot. With this much public attention, the authorities will have to investigate the Red Tower to give the public an answer. The protégés the Red Tower has cultivated will probably be too scared to make a peep. Your analysis is spot on, Irons said. Victor is forcing the hand of the Red Tower's true master. After all, we already have Jonathan Croft in custody. With this firestorm online, if the man behind the curtain can't reach Croft, he's going to get very nervous. Mister, Evans gave a wry smile. I can't help but feel like we're all just pawns in one of Victor Vance's schemes. Irons's tone was tinged with regret. I truly underestimated him. Since arriving in Port Sterling, my focus has been on the Red Tower, Theodore Vance, and Jonathan Croft. I never once paid him any mind. I'm not a local official, and I only have a few years left in this job. I'm afraid I won't have the chance to take him down myself. Mister, Evans looked at the man who was nominally his superior, but was truly his mentor, a mix of emotions churning inside him. Quentin Irons had spent his entire life fighting corruption, risking his own life to do what was right for the country and its people. He listened to every cry from the public, yet he had sternly refused his own son's request for a simple job placement. Despite his high rank, he wore the same suit for years, and his leather shoes were always dusty. He was walking a path no one else dared to tread, a path full of thorns and wild beasts. And he was still walking it. After they finished eating, Mr. Evans glanced at the report submitted by Victor. Director, should we keep waiting Croft out? I think he's starting to get anxious. Irons smiled. Let him get a little more anxious. The heat isn't high enough yet. Besides, let's wait for those bank presidents. I suspect someone is about to break. Mr. Evans's expression grew grave. Director, if this matter becomes public, I'm afraid it will cause quite a commotion. You're telling me? Irons sighed. This is the earthquake Victor Vance spoke of. The magnitude is beyond my imagination. I estimate that even now, Jonathan Croft has no idea how deep Victor has dug. As if on cue, the man himself called. Victor Vance was on the line for Director Irons. Director Irons, the materials I submitted to you. Have you put them to use? Irons grunted. We are using them. Victor chuckled. Then I can rest easy. This Jonathan Croft is a real piece of work. Look at the things he's done. TSK. On behalf of the people of Port Sterling, I thank you for your contribution. Don't, Victor said. It's the duty of every citizen. Then his tone shifted. However, Director, you must act quickly. If I was able to get my hands on this information, it's not impossible for others to do the same. If someone with ill intentions releases it to the public before you do, I'm afraid it will be much more difficult for the authorities to handle. A cold light flashed in Irons's eyes, and his voice turned frosty. Victor Vance. Yes. Irons was silent for a moment. Watch yourself. Fair enough. After hanging up, Quentin Irons slammed his hand on the desk in frustration. This Victor Vance, he's completely fearless now, just waiting to reap the rewards like a fisherman catching the spoils of a battle. Mr. Evans added, he's forcing us to make our move. Director, there's one thing I still don't understand. He's taking on the Crofts and the Red Tower, making such a huge scene. How does he plan to clean it all up? God only knows what method he'll use, Irons said. But it's obvious that if he could dig up so much on the Crofts, he's been coveting their resources for a long time. As for the Red Tower, that 9-story demon pagoda that has stood unshaken in Port Sterling, it was always going to be a threat to him. This is the perfect opportunity to use our power to eliminate it. He wants to be the king of this city. Mr. Evans's expression was grim. After a long silence, he said coldly, far-sighted and opportunistic. He's a true warlord. If he succeeds, I'm afraid Port Sterling will see a demon pagoda even more monstrous than the Red Tower. Director, if possible, I truly want to take a run at that old fox. Irons closed his eyes, a look of disappointment on his face. The Vance family has been entrenched in Port Sterling for decades. Their roots run deep. I'm afraid we don't have the time to dismantle them. With a sigh, the high-ranking official changed the subject. Let's focus on the task at hand. You continue to wear down Jonathan Croft. Once one of those bank presidents starts talking, I'll go play with him myself. About half an hour later, Eva Vance called Director Irons again. Irons considered for a moment before answering. Captain Vance, hello. Eva couldn't help but feel a pang of awkwardness. During their previous interactions, Irons had always called her Eva. Addressing her by her title now felt distant. After reporting on the fisherman's suicide, Eva said, "Director Irons, we are currently conducting an investigation at the Red Tower. Do you have any instructions for us?" Irons smiled faintly. "Captain Vance, just do your job." In truth, Irons was distancing himself from Eva not just because of Victor's veiled request, but more importantly, because Victor was now clearly the mastermind behind this entire affair. Ethically and logically, Eva had to recuse herself. Hanging up, Eva looked crestfallen. She took a moment to compose herself before stepping through the main doors of the Red Tower. On the top floor, Sienna Sterling was on the phone with Ruff. "Sir, something has likely happened to Jonathan Croft. I still can't reach him." Ruffing's voice was deep. "Yes, I received word this afternoon. The task force secretly summoned several people. They're all being held at the federal building now. I suspect Croft is among them. I was lucky I smelled danger and left the Croft estate in time." "Ah, the police just showed up at the door." Sienna's brow furrowed. "This isn't right. It's not right at all. Sir, everything that's happened today has been too sudden. I don't understand." Ruffing snorted. "It's most likely Victor Vance pulling some strings. My earlier concerns are probably coming true." Sienna drew a sharp breath. "Then, what should we do?" Ruffing was silent for a moment. "Handle today first. We'll meet tonight and talk." "All right, sir, please be careful." After hanging up, Sienna took a deep breath, lit a cigarette, and went downstairs. She had just reached the front desk when she saw Eva Vance walk in. The stunning woman put on an air of nonchalance, a faint, dismissive smile playing on her lips. "Put out the cigarette," Eva said coolly as she approached. Sienna took a drag, a half-smile on her face. "Is smoking illegal now?" Eva was irritated. "What's with the attitude? You think this look makes you proud? Honorable?" Sienna chuckled. "Why shouldn't I be proud? Officer Vance, not everyone in this world is born with a silver spoon in their mouth like you, living a life of privilege that ordinary people can only dream of. I bet the money you spent on a single piece of clothing as a child could have fed me for a year. I wasn't so lucky. My mother was a prostitute, my stepfather a drunken beast. I got to where I am today by clawing my way up, step by step. So, you probably don't have the right to lecture me. Don't use that as an excuse." Eva said coldly. "I have nothing to do with the Vance family, and a humble background is no excuse for breaking the law." Sienna found this amusing. "You have nothing to do with the Vance family?" "Yes, you've disowned them all, but are you really so unaware of why you were transferred from a frontline narcotics unit to the city's major crime squad? If Victor wasn't afraid of you throwing a fit, he probably would have had you kicked off the force entirely. And you, constantly going after the Vance family. If it were anyone else, would they still be a police officer? Would they even still be alive? Some privileges are just things you're born with. I have to accept that." Sienna took another drag. "Besides, you say I've broken the law? What law have I broken?" Eva didn't want to argue about family background. It seemed that being born a Vance was a great source of shame for her. "You know better than I do what laws you've broken." Sienna shot her a glare and stubbed out her cigarette in an ashtray. "Captain Vance, let's cut the crap," she said coolly. "You're here today because of the suicide this afternoon and because of anonymous tips about prostitution at the Red Tower. In the end, it's all just baseless slander. But I've still given you free rein to search the place from top to bottom. I've been cooperative enough, haven't I? I'll give you another 10 minutes, tops. Otherwise, you're going to have to give me an explanation." Eva's face was dark. "Why don't you have security cameras?" Sienna was contemptuous. "Does the law require it?" "Oh, right, there's one regulation that has that requirement. However, we filed the paperwork with the relevant department and signed a waiver. Do you want to see the documents? I can get them for you." Eva stared daggers at her. Just then, a colleague who had been investigating the Croft estate sent her a message. "Jonathan Croft isn't there. He left this morning." Eva was silent for a moment. "I'll ask you one more time. Where is Jonathan Croft?" Sienna shrugged. "I really don't know him well. He's just a regular here." "I heard you're his mistress." "I heard you're his mistress, too," Sienna retorted. "Don't make baseless accusations." Eva was fuming. A short while later, her team finished their search, having found nothing. "Ms. Sterling, you're coming with us to assist with our investigation," Eva said. Sienna remained unperturbed, nodding with a smile. "As I should." 4 o'clock in the afternoon, at the federal building. Jonathan Croft was no longer as composed as he had been that morning. He was now agitated, pacing nervously. "Sir, I've told you everything I know. Why are you still holding me here? What is this about? You have to give me some kind of explanation." "Mr." Evans glanced at his watch, his face impassive. "Watch your words. Who's holding you? You're just assisting with an investigation." Croft's expression turned cold. "If my business suffers because of this delay, Who's going to take responsibility? Huh, mister. Evans acted as if he hadn't heard, calmly asking, explain the $200 million trust fund your ex-wife has overseas. How did that come about? Croft pursed his lips. That's my legitimate income. You can check. Sir, $200 million, to someone like me, is not a lot of money. We were married for most of our lives. Giving her a sum to live on, is that so hard to understand? Mister. Evans smiled faintly. You're quite the sentimental man. Let's talk about your dance troupe. I hear it's basically your personal harem, and the finest delicacy you serve to your honored guests? Is that the case? Croft forced himself to be patient. Where are you hearing these things? Huh. The dance troupe has brought a lot of prestige to Croft Consolidated, but ultimately, it's for promoting traditional culture. Mister. Evans almost laughed out loud. The director of a dance troupe makes $10 million a year. The entire group has over 200 members. They stay in five-star hotels every day, living a life of absolute luxury. You spend hundreds of millions a year just to maintain them. You really spare no expense. Culture, Croft said solemnly, is priceless. Mister. Evans stared at the old scoundrel, whose skin was thicker than a castle wall, a half-smile on his face. And what about all those unfinished buildings under your company's name? What do you have to say about that? Croft was dismissive. That's a confidential part of our corporate development strategy. I've already assured the relevant departments that we will do our utmost to complete the properties. Can you deliver? Mister. Evans asked, his gaze fixed on Croft's eyes. Croft's eyes didn't waver. He nodded. Absolutely. With that, they locked gazes, neither speaking. A moment later, the office door opened, and Quentin Irons walked in, carrying a stack of files. Mister. Evans let out an almost imperceptible sigh of relief and quickly stood to offer his seat. Director. Irons nodded, sat down, and placed the files beside him. He looked at Croft with a faint smile. Chairman Croft, hello. Croft scrambled to his feet, a sycophantic smile plastered on his face. Director Irons, hello, hello. Irons gestured to the chair. Sit. I have a few questions I'd like to ask you. Faced with Irons's powerful presence, Croft became much more subservient, his expression almost fawning. Director, you're too kind. If there's anything you need my cooperation on, please just ask. I will tell you everything I know. Irons smiled and offered him a cigarette. Relax. We're just having a casual chat. He lit it. You're quite the legend, you know. A decorated soldier 30 years ago, and now a titan of industry. Your story is truly remarkable. Croft broke into a sweat. Before he could speak, Irons continued, a top government research institute under your leadership was gutted. You forced out the researchers, turned it into your personal assembly plant through stock transfers and spin-offs. Heh, you cashed out and ran, but you set back our country's electronics technology by more than a decade. Is that your idea of loyalty? Calling you a treasonous dog would be a compliment. Hearing this, Croft's composure shattered. A moment later, he put on a pained expression of deep regret. I admit, I was short-sighted back then. I've long known I was wrong. I am guilty. I have failed my country. For all these years, I've been living in regret this. Stop acting, Irons said, slowly exhaling a cloud of smoke. It's not that you know you were wrong. It's that you know there's nothing we can do to you for it. Croft looked thoroughly ashamed, as if he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. But in reality, the old fox's psychological fortitude was strong. While putting on a show for Irons, he was secretly trying to deduce the true purpose of this line of questioning. Logically, there was no need to bring up this old affair. His actions at the time had been legally sound. As Irons said, no one could touch him for it. So was he asking about that person? As expected, after a few more silent drags on his cigarette, Irons got straight to the point. Who was the mastermind hiding behind you back then, pulling the strings? The real owner of the Red Tower? Croft was visibly stunned, looking bewildered. What? Person behind me? Director, I don't understand what you mean. Irons narrowed his eyes, but didn't press further. Mark my words. This is the first time I'm asking you today. Croft looked baffled. Let's change the subject, Irons said. Those unfinished buildings your company owns. What's the plan? Croft swallowed hard, the unlit cigarette still between his fingers. I was already questioned by the authorities about this last year. I made a promise to complete the properties as soon as possible. That was your chance to atone. But can you deliver? Irons's face was grim. And that's not even counting all the projects I can see here in Port Sterling. How many properties do you have across the country? How many are currently stalled? You know better than I do. 2 massive developments in Eastport. 3 years, and all you've built is the front gate. You haven't even broken ground. Do you have any idea how many people you've left homeless? How many families you've torn apart? Have you ever counted? Croft looked even more ashamed. I promise, within 5 years, I will deliver every single house. And what will you guarantee that with? I. I'll stake my life on it. Director, I'll sign a pledge right now. Irons slammed his hand on the table. You could die 100 times over, and it wouldn't be enough to quell the public's anger. He threw a file at Croft. Still treating me like a child? Take a look for yourself. Croft caught the file. He only had to see the letterhead and the official seal to feel the cigarette in his hand snap. His eyes went wide. Director, who is this? Who is slandering me? Croft was trembling, swallowing repeatedly. His expression won a complete panic. This is all libel. Who is it? I'm going to sue them. Irons's gaze was sinister. You animal, he hissed. Conspiring with this foreign auditing firm, cooking the books. You've managed to rack up a debt of $2 trillion. $2 trillion. How are you going to pay that back? Huh? Where's the money? Where did it go? Cold sweat poured down Croft's body as he kept denying it. This isn't real. Someone is framing me. Director, Jew. You must clear my name. Irons stubbed out his cigarette. After a long exhale, he sneered, Relax. I told you. We're just having casual chat. Heh. So tell me, how much dirty money has Luhua Global Auditing taken from you over the years to cook your books? Luhua, one of the top 5 accounting firms in the world, had been designated by Croft as Croft Consolidated's auditor a decade ago. And now, it was the fatal weakness, the Achilles heel of the Croft family, that Victor Vance had seized upon. The gentleman had long predicted this vulnerability would become a problem, but there was no way to eliminate it, so he could only warn Jonathan Croft to be careful. Croft, of course, knew the stakes. He had colluded with Luhua for years, covering their tracks meticulously, making the books look pristine. But the file Irons had just thrown at him contained a detailed record of every single fraudulent entry, an absolute secret between Croft Consolidated and Luhua Global Auditing. Amid his panic, Croft began to piece it together. There was no way Irons could have obtained this file on his own. It was not hard to guess it had come from Victor Vance. But how on earth had Victor gotten his hands on it? The entire reason he had chosen Luhua was for their security. Seeing that Croft was losing his composure, Irons snorted. Chairman Croft, this isn't the kind of psychological fortitude a titan of industry should have. Croft wiped the sweat from his face with a trembling hand. Even with the ironclad proof in his hands, he refused to confess. This is definitely someone framing me, slandering Croft Consolidated. The seal must be fake. You have to investigate this thoroughly. Irons took a deep breath. It seems you have no intention of cooperating. Fine. Then I'll talk and you'll listen. Over the years, because of the authoritative audit reports issued by Luhua, Croft Consolidated has inflated its operating income by over $350 billion and its profits by approximately $130 billion. Based on this, you misappropriated home purchase funds and financing as profit, distributing nearly $100 billion in dividends. You, Jonathan Croft, personally received $40 billion of that. And because of these fraudulent financial reports, Croft Consolidated has secured nearly $500 billion in financing from financial institutions. Do you dare to admit to these numbers? Slander. Libel. Croft screamed like a cornered animal. You're framing an innocent man. You're framing an innocent man. Director, this report is obviously fake. You can't believe it. You can't frame me. Stubborn till the end, Irons said coldly. Bring it in. At his command, a member of the task force brought in a laptop and placed it in front of Croft. On the screen was a video of a bank president's confession from earlier. I became addicted to the hospitality of Croft Consolidated's dance troupe. I approved over $30 billion in illegal loans for them. The bribes I received are in offshore accounts, more than $400 million. I haven't dared to spend a penny. In Singapore, there's also a mansion in the name of one of the girls from the troupe, worth over $60 million. In my safe at home, there are 2 recordings of phone calls between me and Jonathan Croft. Hearing the word million, a figure unattainable for the masses but now utterly trivial in this context, a strange expression flickered across Mr. Evans's face. He had just heard astronomical figures in the tens and hundreds of billions. Croft's true debt was even being measured in trillions. For a moment, he felt like he was in the underworld, listening to the king of hell pass judgment on a soul. The average person's wildest daydream was winning $5 million in the lottery. A truly imaginative person might dream of winning $200 million. $1 trillion. What did that even mean? He figured even the most brilliant mind would struggle to comprehend it. After watching the interrogation video, Jonathan Croft's expression shifted from panic to helplessness to a state of calm, all within the span of a single minute. He knew that it would take the task force some time to fully verify the information Victor had provided. Therefore, they couldn't take compulsory measures against him just yet. But now his old friend, likely spooked by the materials Victor had supplied, had confessed and implicated him. How could the task force not arrest him now? It had all come too suddenly, without any warning at all. Victor Vance, sitting comfortably at Phoenix Crest Manor, sipping tea with its beauty in his arms, had taken him down without lifting a finger. "Director Irons," Croft said, his head hanging, his face ashen. What are you going to do with me?" Irons understood the meaning behind his question. He countered, "What do you think I'm going to do with you?" Croft lifted his head and took a deep breath. Croft Consolidated can't fall. My creditors will jump off buildings. And those hundreds of thousands of unfinished homes, if they aren't delivered, it could trigger a massive earthquake. Irons sneered. "Are you suggesting I should give you another chance? Let you pay back your debts and finish the buildings?" Croft's lips were pressed into a thin line, his eyes pleading, yet threatening, as he stared at Irons. Smack! Irons shot to his feet, his eyes resolute and cold as he glared at Croft. "Jonathan Croft, I'm telling you, Quentin Irons, will never, ever bow down to evil." Croft closed his eyes, then turned to look out the window at the sky, a bitter smile touching his lips. He had always known his fate. Being caught might even let him live a little longer. Right now, he just missed his son. What a regret that he would never get to avenge him with his own hands. Seeing Croft's defeated, ashen state, Irons suddenly asked, "Jonathan Croft, this is the second time I'm asking you. Who is the person behind you?" Croft acted as if he hadn't heard. "Irons, do you need me to remind you? Is it Ruff?" Hearing those two words, Croft slowly turned his gaze back to Irons, stared at him for a moment, then shook his head. "I don't know what you're talking about." A flicker of light crossed Irons' eyes. "In that case, I have nothing more to say to you. In any case, your bank president friends will probably be able to pick you clean. I'll spend the next few days chatting with them. You have plenty of time to cool down and think it over. Take him away." After Croft was let out, Mr. Evans was unable to regain his composure for a long time. He sighed, "Those poor people who bought the unfinished homes." Irons took a deep breath, his own heart a mix of emotions. "As you sow, so shall you reap. You can't hide a fire in paper forever. This earthquake was bound to happen sooner or later. Evans, make the arrangements. Bring in all of Croft Consolidated's senior executives. Once they are all in custody, contact the police and publicly announce that Jonathan Croft has been formally taken into custody. He's not the only one collaborating with Luhua. I need to use his head to send a clear warning to all the other villains like him." "Yes, sir, Mr. Evans replied. He had just started to walk away when Irons called him back. "Wait, one more thing. No one is to have any contact with the detainees except for our task force, especially Croft. Also, they eat what we eat. You do as you always do. Order from random restaurants outside. Even a bottle of water, you buy it yourself." "Understood, Mr. Evans smiled faintly and nodded. "Director, don't you worry. Nothing will go wrong." Meanwhile, Cassandra Vance and Sean Bellamy had witnessed the police investigations at both the Croft estate and the Red Tower, but they didn't think much of it. The police didn't yet know what had happened to Jonathan Croft. They were just conducting a routine inquiry because of the fisherman's suicide. Cassandra and Sean knew this. Besides, given the Red Tower's influence, this routine investigation was likely just for show. Once it was over, they'd trot out a few scandals about top celebrities to use as a smokescreen, control the media, and in 2 or 3 days the storm would pass. The Red Tower would still be the Red Tower. Still, seeing the police return empty-handed, Cassandra understood that Jonathan Croft wasn't home. But she had no intention of leaving. She needed to get on the same page with Croft about Victor's gift before going to the manor to accuse him. She waited until nearly 5 o'clock, but Croft still hadn't returned. Cassandra's patience had run out. Just as she was thinking about heading to the manor to see her father first, she happened to see Evan, one of Croft's godsons, walking out of the mansion. Cassandra quickly got out of her car, a smile on her face. "Mr. Evan." Evan, who had been about to call the still-missing Croft, discreetly put his phone away. "Ms. Vance." Cassandra had no time for pleasantries. "Where is Chairman Croft? Is he not home?" Evan shook his head. "He left early this morning. Probably went to see some important official." "Didn't Victor Vance file a complaint against Croft Consolidated?" "The chairman has been dealing with that recently." That's what he said, but he suspected Croft was with the master of the Red Tower. After all, this incident had pushed the club into the public eye. Croft was likely getting an earful. "When will he be back?" Cassandra asked. "I can't say. Probably very late." Evan paused. Are you here because of the suicide this afternoon? Ms. Vance, surely you're not getting spooked by such a small matter? Cassandra gave an awkward laugh, not explaining her reason. Then I'll be on my way. I'll visit him later this evening. With that, she left in a hurry, went to the Red Tower to pick up Sean, and headed for Phoenix Crest Manor. But not long after she left, 2 police cars arrived at the Croft estate and took Evan and the family butler into custody. At Phoenix Crest Manor, Victor Vance sat under a pavilion, a slight smile on his lips as he read a text from his secretary. Across from him, Dr. Linus Hayes was taking his pulse. Chairman, you're in excellent health, though your liver is a bit overactive, Dr. Hayes said, then frowned. However, your kidneys, they're a little, well. Victor looked up. A little weak. Dr. Hayes seemed embarrassed. Not just a little. It's... Victor sighed. I'm getting old. My back and knees are always sore. My memory is failing. Do you have any magic little pills to give me a boost? Dr. Hayes nodded slightly. He didn't say it, but he thought to himself, I do, but I'm afraid any boost I give you won't keep up with how fast you're spending it. Victor chuckled. After a moment of silence, he suddenly asked, Linus, tell me honestly, what do you think of my eldest daughter? Dr. Hayes, who had just taken a sip of tea, choked, but managed to feign composure. The young miss. She's very nice. I remember, she's 3 years older than you, right? Dr. Hayes grunted in affirmation, not daring to continue the conversation. An older woman is a treasure. Victor laughed. You should consider it. In this whole world, I think you're the only one who can handle her. Dr. Hayes's jaw dropped. After a few seconds, he managed to say, Chairman, how could I possibly be worthy? This won't work. Victor waved his hand. Why not? She's just a bit fierce. You have such a good personality. You two are a match made in heaven. Don't move. Don't move. Let me take a look. My, a perfect match. Truly perfect. Dr. Hayes was speechless. Just as he was trying to figure out how to escape, he heard a car screech to a halt at the courtyard entrance. A moment later, Cassandra stormed in, cursing. Dr. Hayes let out a sigh of relief and quickly stood up. Chairman, I should. Victor raised a hand to stop him. Despite Cassandra's aggressive entrance, the old fox was still in the mood for jokes. Don't you worry, son. Your future father-in-law's got your back. Dr. Hayes was speechless again. Victor Vance, you bastard. Could you be any more despicable? Do you have any idea how much you've cost the Vance family? Cassandra shrieked. Victor calmly rose to his feet and smiled. Stop shouting. You sound like a crazy old hag. Have some dignity. Besides, when it comes to being despicable, who can compare to you? Heh. Cassandra pointed a trembling finger at him, her teeth clenched. You animal. You'd better watch out for lightning strikes. Come on, if you have any guts, come with me to see Father. We'll see if he doesn't skin you alive. Fair enough, fair enough. Victor beckoned to Dr. Hayes. Son-in-law, get in the car. When they arrived at the Eyrie, Cassandra got out of the car and immediately started yelling again. Victor was unperturbed, barely paying her any mind. Theodore's personal maid heard the commotion and slowly walked out of the bedroom, her face devoid of expression. Miss Vance, please lower your voice. If you want to argue, do it outside. Cassandra was furious. She glared at the maid and snapped. Who the hell do you think you are? Get out of my way. The maid didn't budge. Mr. Vance said he doesn't want to see you. He said you should watch yourself. Cassandra's furious expression froze on her face. After a stunned moment, she shouted towards the bedroom, Dad, I need to talk to you. The maid's lips twitched. Miss Vance, don't make him any angrier. It won't do you any good. Please leave. Cassandra ignored her. Dad, Victor is trying to ruin me. The overseas project is in trouble. Dad, you have to do something. The Vance family has suffered huge losses this time. Dad. No matter how much she yelled, her father didn't respond. In her desperation, Cassandra tried to force her way in, but the maid effortlessly grabbed her in a joint lock and pushed her down the stone steps. Miss Vance, if you continue like this, I won't be so polite. Victor shook his head with a smile, walked over to the fuming Cassandra, and whispered in her ear, Sister, don't waste your energy. Don't you think that if Father still wanted to deal with you, I would even be at the manor right now? Listen to my advice. While you're still alive, get the hell overseas. Victor Vance, what are you so proud of? Cassandra roared. Her phone rang. Seeing it was the GM from Apex Construction, she stepped aside to answer. Ma'am, something must have happened to the Crofts. The project's lead supervisor was just taken away. I asked around, and the senior executives at Croft Consolidated Headquarters have all been taken in for questioning too. Cassandra was dumbfounded. It took her a long moment to recover. She glared at Victor, her voice a low hiss. You bastard, what kind of game are you playing? Victor's eyes were full of mockery. You think you're worthy of me playing games with you? The dog in my yard has more brains than you do. Scram, and stop bothering father. With that, Victor swaggered up the stone steps. The maid didn't block him, instead bowing and stepping aside. Cassandra was in utter disbelief. In the past, no matter what trouble she caused, her father would always step in for her. Why this time? Watching Victor enter the bedroom, Cassandra stood there, stunned for a long time. Finally, she left in a rage, vowing to herself, fine. Very fine. Victor Vance, I will make you pay. Inside the bedroom, Victor very consciously knelt by the bed, his head bowed, not daring to look at his father. Dad, hit me or curse me, it's up to you. Theodore leaned against the headboard, his eyes lightly closed, his face grim. The overseas project. How much will the insurance cover? Half, maybe. You will make up the other half. Fair enough. More than fair. Theodore took a breath and slowly turned to his youngest son. How? He asked in a low voice. Did you find the Croft family's fatal flaw? Victor looked up and smiled faintly. In this world, anything made by man is unreliable. Theodore's brow furrowed, his eyes complex. You even managed to bribe a senior executive at Leroy? And you must have been working on this for a long time, haven't you? Cough, cough. Victor, I'm actually a little afraid of you now. Victor looked aggrieved. Dad, what kind of father is afraid of his son? No matter how much of a scoundrel I am, I would never be disrespectful to you. Theodore slowly closed his eyes. After a long silence, he waved his hand. Go and do what you need to do. Be careful of the Red Tower. Victor, leave your sister a way out. Let her go. His tone had never been so melancholic. Fair enough, Victor replied with a smile, then backed out of the room. After leaving the courtyard, he called his son. Ethan, get ready. In a couple of days, you're going to Apex Consolidated to take over. Your aunt's company. I'm letting you play with it for a bit. Ethan, on the other end, was caught off guard. After a moment, he said coolly, not interested. Come on, just help me out. Victor said in a placating tone. This feast is too rich. I'm stuffed from eating alone, and it's not a good look. Help me shoulder some of the burden. Ethan didn't say another word. He just hung up. A troubled look crossed Victor's face. He muttered to himself, how on earth am I going to get this kid to stay? This is giving me a headache. The next day, the announcement of Jonathan Croft's arrest dominated the headlines of every major media outlet, sending shockwaves across the nation. At 8 in the morning, several banks with close ties to Croft Consolidated, as if by prior arrangement, simultaneously announced they were freezing the company's assets. They issued emergency statements claiming their recent illegal loans to Croft weren't illegal at all, but were the result of fraudulent audit reports provided by Leroy, which had led them to make erroneous judgments. In other words, they were victims too. In addition, several other large real estate companies also came forward, all of them eager to prove they were different from Croft, that they would never abscond with the funds, and they all solemnly vowed to complete their buildings and clear their debts. It was as if overnight, these vampires had seen a sliver of light break through the dark clouds that had covered the sky. Panicked, they were afraid of being burned to ashes by the sunlight, so they all put on new faces and became responsible corporate citizens. The magnitude of this earthquake was immense. The warning bell Quentin Irons had rung was deafening. In a country estate, Sienna Sterling brewed a pot of tea and sat down on the living room sofa, her eyes fixed thoughtfully on a closed bedroom door. A moment later, the French assassin emerged from the bedroom, muttering something in French. Judging by his expression, he was very impatient. Ruffing's 2 bodyguards followed closely behind. After the 3 had left, Sienna carried the tea tray into the bedroom, went around a screen, and placed it on a table. She then sat down on the edge of the bed, took hold of Mr. Ruffing's leg, and smiled faintly. Still not getting up? I've made you tea. Mr. Ruffing rubbed the bridge of his nose and looked at Sienna, his eyes full of tenderness. My girl, did you hear anything I said to you last night? Sienna pouted. From last night until now, every time you see me, you tell me to leave. Do I displease you that much? Ruffing sighed. Living a peaceful life overseas is better than living in constant fear here. Sienna shot him a look. I'll say it again. If we go together. After a pause, the beautiful woman suddenly changed the subject. That foreigner was cursing up a storm. What did you say to him just now? He's in a hurry to go back, Ruffing said. He wants to finish this job as soon as possible. So, you told him to wait a bit longer, and he wasn't happy about it. At a critical moment, one must wait for the right opportunity. Besides, there's no need for Quentin Irons to die just yet. Sienna was thoughtful. If Jonathan Croft takes all the blame, then Irons can take his head back and report a success, and everyone will be happy. But if Croft starts pointing fingers, then Irons. Must I? That's the logic of it, Ruffing mused. But Croft won't point fingers so easily. After all, I'm the one who arranged for his entire family to go abroad. Their lives are in my hands. It's just that I warned him before. If the family's vital interests were ever threatened, he would have to take responsibility. I even gave him a list of names in the government, for him to expose one by one. But now, a full day and night have passed, and he hasn't made a move. This is probably his way of telling me that his son's killer hasn't been dealt with, and he's not reconciled to it. A shiver went down Sienna's spine. She feigned composure. Sir, what? What are you planning to do? Ruffing stared at her, his gaze growing deeper. He suddenly asked, My girl being caught in the middle must be very painful, isn't it? For some reason, hearing this, Sienna's eyes suddenly grew moist. You old scoundrel. You say this to me. Aren't you afraid I'll run off and tip off Ethan Vance? Ruffing slowly shook his head. How you choose is your freedom. Even if you told him I'm the boss of the Red Tower, what I look like, I wouldn't blame you. Sienna couldn't say a word. She tilted her head back, trying not to let the tears fall. Ruffing sighed. My girl, when a choice is too difficult, just don't choose. Leave it to fate, okay? Don't cry. You've been with me for so many years and never once cried. But for that boy from the Vance family, how many times have you cried these past few days? I didn't say I was going to do anything to him. The most important thing right now is to get in touch with Croft, find a way to pressure him, make him listen. Unless it's absolutely necessary, I won't tear things open with the Vance family. On one side was the person who cherished her, on the other, the person she cherished. Sienna truly didn't know how to choose. Don't go to the Red Tower for a while. Stay here for now. Ruffing continued. Victor's move was too vicious, too sudden. It caught me completely off guard. I'm afraid our Red Tower can't be saved. That old bastard. He's determined to force me out into the open. Right now, Sienna's hatred for Victor was profound. If it weren't for that old fox constantly stirring things up, would they be in this tense situation? Would she be so torn? But she didn't dare complain. Mister. Ruffin was already angry. Fanning the flames would only be detrimental to Ethan. So, she could only remain silent, continuing to massage Ruffing's legs. As she reached his calf, Sienna intentionally or unintentionally glanced at his foot. Looking at the foot that was missing a big toe, her expression grew even more complex. At the same time, at Croft Consolidated, the ground floor of the building was swarming with reporters and creditors. The security guards were overwhelmed. It took a large police presence to barely maintain order. One creditor with a megaphone was asking a series of soul-searching questions. Your Chairman Croft slept with so many female celebrities, never for less than $1 million a night. That dance troupe costs several $100 million a year to maintain. The Croft family's Golden Palace is worth $400 million, and they have a dozen more mansions around the world, worth nearly $100 million combined. His private yacht and private jet, together they're worth at least $30 or $40 million, right? With all that money, you can't pay back our few $100,000, our few million. Though they were furious, if Jonathan Croft were standing in front of them, how many would dare to be so loud? The debtor has always been the king, especially one who owes over $1 trillion. They wouldn't dare yell at him. They'd probably cradle him in their hands for fear of dropping him, hold him in their mouths for fear of him melting. Faced with the onslaught, Croft Consolidated only had a junior department manager to respond. After all, the senior executives had almost all been secretly taken away for investigation. Right now, there was no one in charge. Not far away, a Porsche Cayenne was parked by the side of the road. Brody, whom the police were still searching for, sat in the driver's seat, watching the chaos in front of the company building. His face was flushed red, and he grit his teeth as he cursed. Victor Vance, I will make sure you die a horrible death.